wandering free. Wish I could be part of their cast.
Thank you so much for that.
You're welcome.
That was wonderful.
You're welcome.
I thought it was great.
I almost pulled it off. I lost it in the middle there and I pulled it back down.
Here's my question.
What?
We've got
Part of
one,
their
two.
cast.
We've got 4 more musicals on the horizon.
Are you asking me if I'm going to do it all 4 times?
I think you should.
I think I probably will.
Right? Why not?
I think I probably will.
Because Great Mouse Detective, I know it has songs, but like, you know, it's not the same thing. But like, there's, you know, we're in Broadway musical level type. You know, like we got to do a musical opening.
Well, also you have to remember, at the time we're recording this, the episode won't come out for another month or so. But at the time we're recording this, I'm hot off of the success of the new Watto holiday parody song, "All I Watto for Life Day Is You." So I caught the bug again.
Not to give myself away. Well, first of all, I was like wondering what you were going to do, and I feel stupid for not guessing that.
Part of their cast.
And second, you also sang the intro the last time I was on the main feed.
Oh, that was the last time you were on the main feed was I'll Do Anything?
Yeah.
Look, I mean...
That horrible, horrible song.
There are few things I love more than putting 10% of effort into rewriting lyrics. Like I love a good, not even half-assed, but like quarter-assed parody songwriting. Of course, this was for the George Lucas talk show Life Day holiday special. I took, while the show was going, I took All I Want for Christmas Is You, and I did search and just replaced every instance of Christmas with Life Day and every instance of Want with Watto, and that was pretty much the end of my rewriting. And it reminded me that it's the most fulfilling work in the world to do that lazy a job rewriting song lyrics.
Did you put out the Watto live album?
No, I never did. Because I never recorded it. I thought about doing it with the show, but in my mind, part of me wanted to re-record it. I don't know. I mean, the world ended.
I want to hear those songs again.
Yeah, part of me wants to redo them. Were you at that show, Esther?
I was not. I was seeing Six the Musical that night.
No,
I'm
fine.
very sorry.
No, it's fine. It was the last comedy show, but none of us could have known that at the time.
I thought you were going to do more Watto shows.
I thought so too. We had a second one on the books. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It was huge. But I know you're right. It brings me great joy to replace 3 words in a popular song. I probably will continue doing it for the rest of this miniseries.
Please do. Thank you very much. I'm so excited to talk about this movie and introduce our guests. But I guess you should intro the show.
Oh, I should introduce the show?
Yeah, I guess so.
Oh, this is Blank Check with Griffin David, of course. I'm Griffin.
Oh, I'm David.
A little quicker on the response time there. It's a podcast about filmographies, directors who have massive success. What do you do? You're hitting a fork on a
Sebastian.
Oh, he's being
Sebastian.
Oh, folks, he's being Sebastian. This is going to be a fucking goofball David episode.
I love this movie.
It's a podcast about filmographies, directors who have massive success early on in their career and are given a series of blank checks to make whatever crazy passion products they want. And sometimes those checks clear, and sometimes they bounce, baby. I don't know.
Sometimes they bounce.
I'm trying to decide here. Is this a clear? Would we say
this one cleared?
Little Mermaid cleared.
This one also had a bit of a tail, you might say.
A little bit of a tail. Here's the wild detail.
I just saw your art, Ben. Jesus Christ.
Ben has replaced his virtual background. He's leaning like back in his chair, like 8 feet away from the camera. And he's got a background of like, what would I say? It's like a SoundCloud rapper version of Ariel. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, 100%. She's smoking a massive spliff.
She's smoking the weed and like is looking very cool. I mean, I was trying to find a virtual background. I stumbled upon the fan art world of Ariel, and it's fascinating. There's goth versions.
Yeah.
There's tattooed versions. I mean,
Well, the
all of
hipster
it wildly
Ariel shit.
inappropriate.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just went for like a blunted Ariel. What can I say?
I like the way you say her name.
She's blunted, all right.
Yeah. I was just looking at like stats and stuff before the episode started. This movie made like 85 million in theaters first run, and then by like 2 years later, it had made $1 billion. Like all combined, all revenue streams,
Re-releases, video releases, all that
soundtrack sales, just like everything. Like this movie, things directly tied to this movie had within 2 years made $1 billion for the studio. There's like the line they casually throw out in Waking Sleeping Beauty that I think about all the time, but I think it's pretty indisputable, especially up until that point in time, right? Like up until the late 2000s when $1 billion movies first run worldwide start becoming more of a thing. This run of the Disney Renaissance movies, the top tier films were the most profitable movies ever made. Like they were up until that time, all revenue streams combined, the most profitable films ever made.
To be clear, when it comes to Little Mermaid, that was mostly Sebastian's Calypso album, right? Like that was
huge.
That was the thing, which
Was
I
huge.
owned.
Yeah.
On CD. It was one of the first CDs I ever owned, and I listen to it every day, and it has a great cover if you can get it if you really want, by Jimmy Cliff.
But you know that David Sonnenberg fucked him on the record deal, right? He like never made money off of it. Yeah.
I know. That's why he did his follow-up album, Sebastian Party Gras. Which is a weird pun, because Mardi Gras is already like it's a party. Like I don't know if you really need to plus Mardi Gras.
No. It's kind of a shame that Sebastian didn't do more movies, right? The guy's so good at being in movies.
I think he was too busy being second in command of an aquatic empire, which seems to be his job.
He's got the Janelle Monáe problem. It's like, oh, it turns out you're accidentally a great movie star. How much focus are you willing to put towards that?
Not to get too into it, but I was rewatching this for the millionth time with my boyfriend yesterday, and he was like,
brag.
"Okay, stop." Sorry, yes, humble brag. Okay, stop. We have to discuss what role does Sebastian play in this?
Right. What is his formal, like, if you think of like, is he a chief of staff? Is he the vice president? Like, what is his job?
Does that little seahorse have more power or less power than Sebastian?
We got to talk about the fucking seahorse. It's a huge thing. It needs to be discussed. I forget his name, but he's got a name. I assume.
Absolutely.
Harold. His name is Harold because he's a herald.
Harold.
Get it?
Of course.
It's a joke.
I got it.
Right.
Holy shit.
Right.
It is funny. Like I don't know, David. I feel like you've been watching like shitty, fucking like middling, popcorn movies of the last 10 years a lot in lockdown. And often we'll have these conversations where you're like, I rewatched this movie from 6 years ago. It feels quaint now. Like this thing that you and I are so quick to do, which is like, oh, this movie that I think is garbage, I now find somewhat nostalgic.
Right, like, there's something there, right? Yeah.
And also because shit has gotten so bad that everything feels quaint now. You know, it's just like every passing year, last year's trash now looks like some weird artisanal object.
The death spiral is so intense.
Yes.
I mean, because I put on the Skeleton Key, which is like, I guess like 15 years old, but that's a movie I threw on.
I kind of like that movie, the Kate Hudson, Jenna Rollins movie.
Right. I threw that on and I was like, I mean, this is basically a masterpiece, right? Like this is terrific.
Right.
This is well paced. Like this has a lot of atmosphere, you know, like, and I'm like, no, it's probably just a 7 out of 10, but it's good. It's also reverse Get Out. Whatever. We can't talk about the Skeleton Key right now.
Someone posted on the subreddit recently that I've just genuinely turned into Eli Wallach's character from The Holiday. That I now just go like, can you believe that this movie does this? Today, this movie would do that.
Do you know what a meet cute is?
Yeah, it's all I do now. I'm mourning the death of the thing I'm watching die right in front of me in real time. And the funeral is being released day and date on HBO Max. Listen, this is a miniseries on the films of Musker and Clements. It's called The Pottle Mercast, and today we're talking about that movie.
God.
Esther,
that's what it's called, Esther.
We had
Is there a problem?
limited options. What are you going to call it? Treasure Podcast?
Hey, it is a treasure, this podcast.
This podcast is a national treasure. But then if we use that title, then what would we call our John Turtletop miniseries? These are the tough choices we have to make.
We would call our John Turtletop miniseries Pod Turtle Cast. I don't know.
We'd go back to the
just put it in their name.
Pod Night Shamacast structure. Listen, we got a really exciting guest today for a very particular reason. I mean, she's one of our favorite people, but more importantly, she's breaking a pattern today. For the first time ever, she's talking about a good movie on this podcast. She had verbalized to both of us separately and together that she would like to talk about a good movie someday because she felt like she only gets to talk about absolute garbage on this show.
Yeah, I would say easily the best movie you've ever talked about on the show is Captain Marvel, which you did on the on the Patreon feed.
Which I did not like.
Flawed film at best, right?
Right,
yeah.
a movie that none of us like, but we were like trying to think who to have on this episode, and we threw out a couple of the names of like our favorites, our regulars, and I said, David, let's ask Esther. We've never let her cover a good movie. And then Esther responded to you and texted me independently saying, finally, I get to cover a good movie on the show.
Yes.
Esther Zuckerman.
Yes.
Ladies.
Hello.
And germs.
Hello.
Ladies and crabs. I don't know.
And what did you say to me? We didn't know this, but when I said I was very aware of the fact that you were overdue to be given a good movie, what did you say sits next to your desk, Esther?
A sketch of Flounder by Flounder's original artist that my parents got for me when I was a very little girl. So that is literally to my left. I don't know my left from my right. And then to my right is a poster from the Orpheum run, which was like the second off-Broadway run, not the tiny, tiny run of Little Shop of Horrors. This movie is like very formative to me in many, many ways. It's very important to me, and I'm like very excited to talk about it.
I'm very excited for you to say. Right. I feel like Esther, we used to work together. Esther, you work for Thrillist right now, obviously. We should shout this out. You wrote a book. We should shout that out.
Thank you.
Right at the top, Field Guide to Internet Boyfriends. But when we work together, that's what it's called, right? Did I nail it?
Yeah. Yeah, you nailed it.
I nailed it. Thank you.
Thank you. My publisher will be very happy.
But also, when we work together, we just would talk about Howard Ashman a lot, I feel like.
Yeah.
You know, and Menken.
Yeah.
Menken Ashman. We would talk about
yeah.
you know, that whole mythos a fair amount. And this is the big, you know, cinematic launch of Menken Ashman.
Right.
Ashman.
I can get into this whole spiel now or later, but like I have this sort of personal connection that is both real and also sort of like invented in my head, I think a little bit. That I can hold off on it. It's like a longer story.
I think let's get into it. I think, I mean, I sort of set this up in The Great Mass Detective, and I'm sure I'm going to keep on saying this ad infinitum for the rest of this miniseries, but this is kind of a weird one for us because Musker and Clements are the least auteurist directors we've covered on this show. Not just because there's two of them, but also because they're such company men. The Disney machinery was so huge. This and Aladdin are so much Ashman Menken movies, you know?
Right.
Not that they're anonymous. I'm sure certain through lines we will be able to identify, but all of their films feel part of larger waves more than their own narratives.
It's true. It's true. I mean, Treasure Planet being the least, I would imagine.
Yeah.
When we get to
Yeah.
that one. Right.
I was saying this to David. It was really interesting rewatching this last night because I feel like I've always watched it with an eye towards this, like the storytelling and the songwriting, and like sort of thinking of knowing it was the Musker Clements movie, like mini series, and sort of thinking about it like as a directorial effort was like very interesting to me to like think about, I guess, like while watching it. Was like it was a different way I had to watch it.
Yeah.
Incredibly directed. Like
yeah,
it's like
beautifully directed.
And the choices that like sort of are born out of the like Ashman lyrics that then Clements and Musker sort of capitalize on within the animation are like really incredible when you like think about them. But I just, it's like a movie so embedded in my consciousness that I like had never really like thought about that before.
It's one of those movies we come across every once in a while on the show where it's hard to actually just reset your brain and try to watch it like objectively, rather like divorced from your history with it, its cultural reputation, everything it's wrought, both good and bad. It's a very hard movie to just sort of like isolate and just watch as a film.
Yeah,
it is.
Yeah.
And I've literally been watching it since I was born.
Right, that's the problem.
Right.
We're the exact age, like we're the generation that grew up with this movie. Like this was the one. It was the tip of the spear in terms of the Disney Renaissance.
And this is the one I probably rewatched the most.
Yeah.
Of all of them.
I'm trying to run it in my head. Of this era, I think it probably was.
It was these three. I don't know. I watched them all three all the time. This, Aladdin, the Ashman Menkens, this, Aladdin, and Beauty and the Beast.
I will say that like when I had this is like sort of embarrassing, but we're all friends on Blank Check.
We're all friends.
Yes.
Like I definitely in high school went through a phase where I reverted back into Disney like a lot. My friends and I like instead of going to the formal dance one year like went to Disneyland because we were in LA. And like during that period when I sort of was like it was both like reverting back into Disney and getting really into like the idea of Ashman and Menken and what they were doing. Like Little Mermaid was the one I watched so much and would just sort of like, sing Part of Your World in the shower, be very much like, I'm this rebellious, like it connects to me too as like a rebellious teenage girl, this bullshit. But it like that was the one I definitely just sort of came back to a lot.
Yeah, I mean, Little Shop of Horrors is my single favorite musical of all time. And there probably not a week has gone by in the last 10 years at least that I have not sung one of those songs to myself in my bathroom. And especially in quarantine, it's been through the roof. Like, I've just taken this time to be like, I'm not going to learn how to make a fucking sourdough loaf. I'm going to try to perfect my Suddenly Seymour. My shower Suddenly Seymour.
I guess
Ben just changed his icon again to another tatted Ariel.
Right. It's
this one I like. She's got Flounder.
She's got
a
gauges
shell.
in her. She's got gauges.
Right.
She does have gauges.
She's got gauges and she's got tattoo sleeves, but the tattoos are all Little Mermaid tattoos. Like they're all
basically
iconography from the movie. Yeah.
She tattooed Flounder on herself.
Well, of course, they're besties.
Yeah.
You can't see it, but there's an Ariel heart Eric, but it's an actual heart. Like it's intense. It's very realistic.
Like a gory heart.
Yeah. It's like a Suicide Girls Burning Angel Ariel, right? Like that's what we're looking at here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Suicide Girls.
Plenty more where that came from anyway. Sorry.
No, I'm sorry.
Little Shop of Horrors we will cover on this podcast one day.
Right? We're gonna do Oz at some point. I don't know if you're aware of this, but this podcast is co-hosted by Griffin Newman. I think we're gonna cover Frank Oz at some point.
It's 12 movies. They're mostly. I feel like they're all interesting. It'd be great. Yeah. But this is the thing I wanted to say. Esther's like, this is a little embarrassing. I'm like, do you know who the co-host of this show is?
No, I know. I don't know why Disney? I said that.
Yeah.
Also, I like.
Like, you think that's embarrassing?
I don't know. I feel like it's that weird thing for a teenage girl when you sort of like dive back into that, like, you know, you revert back a little. I think this happens to like a lot of teenage girls. Like you are so overwhelmed by the world that you revert back into like childhood Disney stuff. Like it was also the era where like Hot Topic and places were putting like cutesy Disney things on T-shirts. My driver's license picture, which is from when I was 15 because I haven't gotten a new driver's license picture. I'm wearing like a Bambi shirt, but it looks like a band T-shirt, but it has Bambi on it.
There's such a fascinating thing to me how like I feel the Disney Renaissance coincides with this Gen X like pushback of like the Disney, like the fucking gaping maw of this beast, and they sand off all the rough edges. Is this shit actually like offensive? And now Hot Topic is just Disney. Hot Topic is like the alternative Disney store, right? Like it's just edgier Disney merchandise for older kids. That's all Hot Topic is now.
And Rick and Morty.
Yeah. And Rick and Morty,
and Harry Potter and all that crap.
Yeah, Harley Quinn. But it went from being like, oh, Nightmare Before Christmas has shit at Hot Topic because that's like the edgy Disney movie, to now it's just like Hot Topic just sells Emperor's New Groove shirts.
They're just a brand partner. Yes, exactly.
Right.
Like
with
But
it's 75% Disney animation
There's
shit.
a lot of Disney. There's a lot of Lilo and Stitch stuff on here. But this is the thing. The Little Mermaid for us, and it's different movies for different people depending on when they grew up. But like, you love it when you're a child. Your parents are like, yeah, it's Disney. We'll put you in front of the Disney. And then as you're a teenager or whatever, it's one of the first things that you reevaluate, and you're like, oh, there's artistry here. It's not just this is the thing I've loved since I was a kid, but you think about it because it's so in your brain. So that's part of the whole experience.
But it also it has that Frozen thing where it's just like, and this is a better movie than Frozen, but where it's just like the emotional core, the wants, the needs of that character as best summarized in that one song is just so fucking potent that like any like 2-year-old can see it and understand it completely. There's just that weird magic where you're like, how is this so crystal clear to anyone of any age where you're like, I get it, I feel that.
That's just like the Ashman idea, like just to get into it. Like that's like what he did. Like there's that clip of him at some sort of like Disney lecture that like gets pushed around a lot where he talks about like the idea of storytelling. It's like every show has the song where the girl sits down on the tree stoop. The tree stoop, is that a word?
Tree stump.
She sits on stump. That's it.
It sounds like
on the tree stump and says.
It sounds like an artisanal stoop. Yeah.
Right. She's got a tree stoop.
And says and like sings about what she wants, and it's it's everything. I think the example he uses is My Fair Lady. All I want is a room somewhere, and
great song.
I mean, Part of Your World also like to get it like my other favorite trivia about Part of the World is that like Jeffrey Katzenberg tried to cut it from the movie.
Yeah, it's like so wild.
which is his second best idea next to Quibi.
Right.
Look, Jeff's a great collaborator, but it is crazy every time you read. And I do think it's partly that people love to relitigate shit, to use a word we were discussing, years after the success. But every time you read about any one of these movies, Katzenberg is just this asshole.
I know.
Who wants to fuck everything up.
But also it should be said, like sometimes, those legends circulate and then you get back to Katzenberg or other people and they're like, that's kind of blown out of proportion. Right, it was mentioned offhand once. But the part of their world thing, he's like, yeah, no, I nearly cut that from the movie. It was like a big fight. I adamantly felt it should not be in the film.
He just thought it was boring.
Yeah, kids weren't going to sit through it.
He thought kids were going to fall asleep. And I think like the other thing is a lot of the animators also, I think, sort of agreed with him because they were sort of so trained to be, what are kids going to start like?
It's
fidgeting?
low on action. Yes. It's a quiet concept. I mean, it's the greatest Disney song. It is arguably the greatest Disney song.
Yeah, it's the best.
It's the platonic ideal.
Yeah.
Also, Jeffrey wanted to turn The Little Mermaid into a Quibi.
Yeah, he did. He wanted to turn into a
He did.
Quibi. It's worth noting that like this movie is 1989. It is the first fairy tale and the first princess movie that Disney Animation has done since 1959. Sleeping Beauty, Little Mermaid, there's nothing in between.
Right, because Sleeping Beauty is the one that kind of scares them off of it, right? Where they're like, we've done this too many times. It's not clicking with boys. We can't be defined by, right? Like where they run away from it.
Which also rules, by the way. I think Sleeping Beauty rules.
The most incredible movie. Just incredible.
I think it's visually beautiful. I find it kind of cold emotionally, but I know it is a little cold, but it's so incredible.
There's just nothing.
Yes, like no. From a design level, I couldn't agree more. But I think that was maybe part of the trepidation too, of just like those movies had less potential for comedy, were a little more arch. You know, like Sleeping Beauty was seen as sort of this like artsy experimental version of the model that they had already maybe wrung out dry. It's I don't know, like I just feel now there's just the sort of like the Disney princess thing, and it's very easy to mush that continuum together, but it's like no, those movies exist from like the 30s to the late 50s and then don't exist at all in the 60s, the 70s until the tail end of the 80s. Right.
It's really the 90s.
Right. Then there's like 4 or 5 of them. Then they get scared off again about boys not liking the movies. They back off, and then they've gone back to the princess well. But it's like, oh, that scared off period was like 8 years versus 30 years.
Right. It's true. I mean, things, as we say, the death spiral, right? Things speed up. But Frozen's the exact same thing, where after not doing it for a while, they're like, what if we did like kind of a big Broadway musical based on a fairy tale about a princess? And they put it out and they're like, I don't think this is going to work. And it like conquers the earth.
Right.
You know, like, and they're like, oh shit.
And don't you remember like the first Frozen trailer was like just Olaf, I think. And like,
right. Because they were like, no one wants this princess shit.
And you didn't know that there was singing in it. Like,
no.
You didn't realize Frozen was like, I don't think I even fully realized how much Frozen was a musical until I went to the screening and I sat down and I was like, oh, this is a musical. I love this. Like, I was so jazzed on that movie because I was just like, oh, like, you know, they're back.
I went with my brother Jamesy, and we were like with the family for the holidays in the middle of Tennessee, and it was like my dad was going to drive me to see a movie because when I'm cooped up with my family somewhere outside of the city, they're like, we have to drop him off at the theater or else he's just going to be unbearable. Like, it's one of those things where they're just like, he's going to get so prickly if he doesn't see a movie at some point in the next 3 days. So James was like, what are you seeing? And I was like, Frozen's the new Disney movie. And he was like, sure, I'll go see that with you. And I think we're literally the only 2 people in the theater opening day at like 11 a.m., you know, at like a multiplex in Knoxville, Tennessee. And when the song starts at the beginning of the movie, he turns to me, he's like, oh, this is like a real Disney movie?
Yeah.
Right.
Like
100%. I feel like no one knew.
Alien.
It also, speaking of Little Mermaid, like it literally directly copies Little Mermaid with the opening song being the sort of like worker song. Like, you know.
There's nothing fucking better than a worker song. It's so good.
Yeah.
Fathoms
Below.
It's so fucking good.
Bring, bring.
Click. Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Whoa.
It's Ursula, darling.
Oh, the villainess of the Little Mermaid. I should have guessed.
Why, of course.
How are you doing, buddy?
Buddy, that's certainly very casual for Ursula.
Well, you know, I'm just trying to, you know, establish a rapport. You give me a phone call.
What ails you, David? You seem tired.
Yeah, I'm a little tired. That's fair. You know, I just basically am, you know, looking for nutrients in my life. I gotta be honest with you. That's what I'm after.
I have a good deal. What if I gave you all the nutrients you want, and in exchange, I take your voice?
Wow. Wait, that's the deal?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not representing a company or anything. I'm just representing myself. If you have a better deal, I'd love to hear it.
Yeah, that's a pretty tough deal because I know that Ritual who do like a clean, vegan-friendly multivitamin with high-quality nutrients and bioavailable forms, they just have like a monthly subscription service where they just kind of like send it to you in the mail and you take it. And that's before any like discounts, which we can maybe discuss later. But I'm just saying, like, just money in exchange for nutrients, that just feels easier to me than like one-off, I have to give you my voice. What if I need more nutrients?
Sure, I'm just a little confused by Ritual's business model. So it's money, but then they take your voice like only one day a month, or how do they do this?
They have no interest in my voice. I mean, the things they are interested in are like giving a key nutrients in forms your body can actually use to help fill gaps in the diet, right? Like no shady extras. It's a delayed release capsule design with high quality nutrients, including vitamin D3 in just 2 daily pills. So that's kind of the thing. You're always going to know where they come from, the nutrients, where they come from, because they got a one-of-a-kind visible supply chain. You can get them for women, for men, for teens. You know, they support different life stages. And they're delivered to your door, free shipping always. And you can start, snooze, or cancel your subscription anytime. And if you don't even like it in the first month, they refund your first order.
But then if you don't like it, then they take your voice, right?
Or no, they don't take your voice. They don't turn you into a little shrimp person who lives under the sea.
I don't get their angle here. Where does it start?
Well, here's
to
my question.
Ritual. Yes.
Ursula, you've got a great voice. You're a great singer, very commanding voice. Why do you need other voices? What's up with that?
Range, it's just...
That's fair. That, you know what? That's actually a pretty good answer.
Right? I mean, who would...
You just want to play every part.
Yeah, I'd love to. Yes, obviously. I'm very kind of alarmed by this business model Ritual has of just kind of basic ethical transparency with their customers. I don't understand at what point there's some sort of ironic twist to the wish.
There's a moment there I thought I heard Watto, but it's definitely Ursula. Look, I mean, forget just the regular conversation we're having about their regular business model. You can get key nutrients without the BS because Ritual is offering Blank Check listeners 10% off during their first 3 months. So it's even better. You can visit ritual.com/blankcheck to start your ritual today.
Bring, bring.
Oh, another call?
I don't know. I guess someone's trying to conference call us. Pick up, David.
Okay,
patch him in.
Click.
Hello.
All right. Okay. It's a little. There was just a rolling of the R or something. Sounded a little like Watto.
Hello, Watto. Nice to see you. Nice to see you too, Ursula. David, I got a deal for you. Let's roll the chance cube. If it's red, I give you vitamins and supplements. If it's blue, I take your wife.
No, you can't. I'm out on this. I'm just going to Ritual. Ritual.com/blankcheck. 10% off for the first 3 months.
Ritual's really screwing with our business models, isn't it?
Yeah, I gotta hang up, guys.
But for Frozen aside, because Frozen is doing, but yes, the Little Mermaid, I think Clements and Musker, obviously Ashman and Menken are so crucial to it, but they are, for Clements and Musker are the ones who are advocating, right? They're like, we should, this was a 30s idea. Like Disney has always thought about doing this fairy tale and never cracked it. But why wouldn't we do? We should do this.
They were going to do an omnibus Hans Christian Andersen movie at one point because
a package film.
Right. The first couple Disney films were so expensive that then there was that scale back period, and he started doing more kind of package movies like Fun and Fancy Free and Make Mine Music, and they had this idea of like, oh, you could adapt a bunch of them. And then that was abandoned. And then the idea of doing a whole Little Mermaid movie kind of persisted for a while. But then independently, fucking 60 years later, I forget if it's Musker or Clements. I just get them confused.
Clements. Clements finds the tale himself, I guess. And writes it up and presents it at the Gong Show, the Katzenberg host that we talked about on the last episode.
It's the Gong Show era where they're so desperate to try to revive their animation department that they'll have these weekly Gong Shows, and it's like anyone can come in with any 2-minute pitch on what could make a good feature-length animated film. So he comes in with the book, and they gong him because of Splash.
They do. they say like, boo, Splash just came out.
We
get the
just
fuck
did
outta
it. Why
here.
would we make another movie in the exact same model as the film we made that was just successful?
What I don't know is why he then turned around and was like, you know what? Actually, write up a treatment. Like, for I don't know what changed his mind exactly.
I don't either.
Maybe Clements just bugged him.
Yeah.
But he did at some point say like, okay, sure, you know, like maybe that's a good idea.
Right. And then separately with that is I think I always get them confused as well, but it's the two guys, Shoemaker and the other guy, whose name I forgot as well last episode, who are the two guys they bring in from theater to sort of oversee the animation department. It's a Tom Shoemaker.
Peter Schneider.
Yes, I think that's who it is.
Doesn't Tom Shoemaker still run Disney Theatrical?
Yes, he now runs the Disney like stage.
The Disney Broadway.
Yes,
he's
Right.
the right,
it's
the
Peter
guy,
Schneider. Peter Schneider. Sorry, Shoemaker and Schneider.
Peter Schneider is the other guy. Shoemaker, right? He's the guy who's always at the Tonys. He's got funny glasses.
Yes.
He's
But Schneider is the guy who's really running lead at this point. He's the one who aggressively pursues Menken and Ashman.
But not for Little Mermaid.
No, just generally like these are the types of guys we should have working on our movies.
Also, it's not even really Menken. That's the thing. Like, it is Ashman who like then is like, I will bring Menken along largely.
Yeah, right.
I'm pretty sure.
Yes, Ashman, because Ashman wrote Little Shop of
Right.
Horrors, and Ashman produces this movie, obviously.
He also directed it. So like Ashman was the sort of creative.
He's the
Right.
Yeah.
He wrote
This
the
is
book.
like-
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the lyrics. Yeah.
Yeah, this is. I'll tell my sort of personal like
Please.
anecdote now, if that's like, because my like connection to Howard Ashman is my parents met working in New York theater. They met at the Impossible Ragtime Theater, and then they went to work at the WPA, which was the theater that Howard Ashman started basically with two other people, Stuart White and Kyle Rennick. And my mom was the literary executive, so she would like read scripts and the casting director, and then my dad would direct plays there. And so they knew Howard. My mom cast Little Shop of Horrors, the original production. Like, so
This is the coolest shit in the world.
So that was like, so it's always been part of one of the last things I did in the before times was Kyle Rennick, who founded the WPA with Howard, just died prior to COVID, and my mom organized this memorial service for him at a theater in New York. And Sarah Gillespie, Howard's sister, was one of the people that spoke. It was also, it was an amazing thing. Alan Menken like sang to sort of close out the evening. It was like this incredible sort of moral, and it was just this weird little awesome it was this weird awesome theater. Like I it's one of those things. It's like I'm pretty obsessed with this like idea of the WPA because it wasn't, it was Little Shop, but it was also, so many other like Steel Magnolias. Like my mom also cast the original production of Steel Magnolias, which
But that's not as cool. Come on.
No, it's not as cool, but it's like it's not as cool, but I like it's this, I don't know, it's this part of like my family history that I'm very proud of.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was watching this stuff for the first time, like I knew who I think I knew who was behind the songs. But basically the whole thing with Howard was that he did I believe his first show on Broadway, Smile, with Marvin Hamlish.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it completely flopped. And then that's when Disney came a-calling.
Yeah.
And they asked for him, and then he brought Menken along.
Right. And Smile was sort of supposed to be like the step up from the off-Broadway weirdness into like the big leagues of Broadway. And when that flopped, I think there was that sort of desperation that a lot of times has inspired historic work that we cover on this podcast, where someone's like, I don't know, that thing didn't work, so I guess I should try this. And then they try something and change the world. Yeah.
Yes, this slight strange. The other thing, right, is that he did lyrics on a song in Oliver and Company, which I guess is just them being like, come, like, come play around.
Yeah.
And like, that's the little spark where they mention, we're working on this like Little Mermaid thing. Like, and like, that's what he is immediately interested in.
This was also, I actually watched, I hadn't seen the Don Hahn documentary about Howard. I watched
It's good.
It's really good. It's really good.
It's really good.
I think it's terrific.
But one of the things I didn't realize was he was working in, like, he tried live action too before then. Like, apparently he wrote, he sat down with Tina Turner and wrote like an idea for like a Tina Turner musical that like Disney might have done. But like he was really drawn to this idea, to the idea of animation, because it is this sort of like unlimited capacity. Like movie musicals weren't working as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was, live action movie musicals. So like with animation, you can do it. You can go back to the well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean,
yes, right.
it's such a perfect confluence of different elements and different people all aligning at this one moment. And it is fascinating because, like, Tangled, which I love, Frozen, Moana, like that new modern wave of the CGI, Jennifer Lee era princess musical revival.
Mm-hmm.
Those movies are clearly evolutions of this era. But these movies are so different from the original Disney princess movies, right? I mean, like Little Mermaid is so different from Sleeping Beauty and Snow White and Cinderella and that whole era. There's such a seismic shift there.
There's no comparison.
And the key to that shift is Broadway, is the influx of the people like Schneider and Shoemaker, bringing in people like Ashman and Menken, and letting Broadway sensibility and to be like, let's say it also like letting very gay sensibilities enter into these films.
That's part of it for sure. That's true. But it's the Broadway sensibility. I think you're right. And just in terms of the confidence to let the songs drive this story entirely.
Yes.
Versus those earlier Disney movies we're talking about, where the songs are interludes. They're nice things to keep the energy up and keep kids invested. And, but like they don't, like Peter Pan has like a couple good songs. Like Pinocchio has a couple good songs, but like they're not as crucial to the plot. Like sometimes it's just like, let's go over there.
They feel closer to how classic Hollywood films will have multiple songs without being a musical. Like When You Wish Upon a Star feels like Dean Martin singing My Rifle, My Pony and Me in, Rio Bravo. It's like, oh, here's like a brief interlude where a character sings a really good song that's going to get nominated for an Oscar. Whereas these are like, it's the fundamentals of musical storytelling where it's like a character sings when the emotion is so great mere words wouldn't do. You need the songs to advance the story.
Yes. And yet this movie also does things where you're like, it's crazy, right? Like Ariel has one song. Eric obviously doesn't sing at all. There's multiple songs that are sung by anonymous cast members,
Yeah, I want to pull up your account here. You did this the other night when you were watching the movie, but the stats are pretty incredible when you just sort of look at them as hard numbers.
Right.
Okay, the thread starts with Scuttle is a good wingman, which of course is a great joke because he has wings.
He's a bird. But also, I was just on this rewatch, I was like, I'm more charmed by Scuttle than I remember being. Maybe when I was a kid, I thought he was annoying or something, but like now I'm just like, Scuttle's like a good dude. He's like a bro.
Also, Scuttle's like, Bob, my boyfriend, was like, Scuttle is just high all the time. Like Scuttle is on the good drugs. He's clearly having a good time.
Yeah. Scuttle's for the grown-ups without being Shrek for the grown-ups. Like, it's not like any of his jokes are mature, but he's got an energy that is not particularly funny to kids.
Right. I think that's accurate. Right. I think that's the thing. When you're a kid, you're like, he's too loud. I don't know. But okay. All right. But
these were the stats. I have it here. The stats he threw out. Breakdown of who gets songs in The Little Mermaid, one of the greatest musicals in Disney history. Sebastian, 2 songs. Ariel, 1 song. Ursula, 1 song. A bunch of sailors, 1 song. Ariel's sisters, 1 song. Homicidal chef, 1 song. End of list.
I mean, the points were made. I mean, like, look, Sebastian getting 2 songs is
justified.
A good idea. Justified. He's great. And he's a musician. Like, I get it. But it is, I don't know, were there cut songs? Like, it's not like Aladdin where there was a bunch on the cutting room floor, right? Like,
no, I don't think so. And it feels like
I think when they did the musical, like they, Tim Rice or something, somebody came in and like made more.
And I'm sure Eric is going to have 6 songs in the fucking Marshall movie. I am the Eric.
I'm
sorry. It wasn't Tim Rice. It was Glenn Slater.
It's just weird that there are multiple songs about Ariel where Ariel does not sing. I guess that's what it is. It's that there's a song introducing her, but then she's not there. And then Kiss the Girl, of course, is Ariel's song in a way.
Yeah.
And is my favorite song ever, and is a song basically written by David Sims and a song I sing to my friends all the time in the form of social interaction.
Right.
But of course she's silent, which.
Right. I mean, part
silent.
of this is, as you said, right. She can't speak for the whole second half of the movie, but it is fascinating how much this movie isn't working on a formula, because the formula hasn't been established yet. And this is now I'm remembering what I was trying to set up fucking 30 minutes ago, talking about how much of an Eli Wallach I've become. But there's elements like that where it's just like, right, the fact that there's no like Flounder song, that there's no Triton song, that there's no Eric song. Like, none of that I'm saying is to the detriment of the movie, but you cannot imagine that flying in a boardroom today, especially when the chef has a song. But also just the fact, this is what made me think of this, like the little Harold guy, the fact that you don't even really know his name, or that like Ariel's sisters are just kind of like window dressing. The idea that Ariel's sisters wouldn't be a clear advertisement for a expansion of the doll line, that they're just kind of there. But I'm like, I was so surprised by the fact that they don't each have like a gimmick and each have like 10 lines of dialogue.
Well, they each have a different hat.
That's it. But that's it. That's the point. They're mostly a visual chorus, right? And you're like, today they would be like, look, we have to make sure that each one has their own sort of like Captain Planet style power, so that girls can pick which Ariel sister is the one that represents them the best.
Right. And like, it's apparently the sequels get into this, but we can't, I can't take those too seriously because they are half just money-making opportunities for the Disney company. But like, you always wonder, it's like, why is Triton so worked up about Ariel specifically when he's got literally older, like his actual throne will surely pass to one of these older kids, right? Ariel's literally the youngest. You'd think you'd like give her a break. She's like, I want to have a, underwater museum of human shit. He's like, yeah, sure, you're the 6th daughter. Fine. That can be your thing if you want that to be your thing.
Because Little Mermaid 2 is Ariel and Eric's daughter, and Little Mermaid 3 is a prequel about the sisters and Ariel.
Maybe that's what it is. Someone told me on Twitter that apparently one of them kind of clarifies that Ariel's mom is sort of like a carbon copy of Ariel. So that's why sense. Triton is super invested. Okay. Which that's fine, whatever. But
there was
like also,
but like, sure, it doesn't count. But there was that weird thing with the direct-to-video sequels where it feels like the second one they'd be like, "Fuck it, I'm tempting fate. I'm gonna make the movie that takes place after Happily Ever After," and the movie would almost always be they have a kid and the kid's exactly like how they were at the beginning of the first movie, and then the third movie they go like, "Fuck, well we did that. We can't just do it a third time." Prequel, and then the third one goes to before the first movie.
And I'm dreading this fucking Rob Marshall movie, but whatever. I mean,
I would be so excited if anyone other than Rob Marshall were making it. Like, to a certain degree, the prospect of adapting this one into live action is more exciting than the others.
No, but I don't know. It's just like, I don't think... See, my problem with that is that, like, it didn't work on stage. Like, when they tried to bring it to Broadway, like, I'm not sure The Little Mermaid works if you, like, extend it. And, like, they will inevitably, like, extend it. Like, you sort of, despite, they're not going to make just... With this one, they're especially because of all these sort of weird holes and like it goes. They're not gonna just make like an 80-minute movie. They're gonna try to do
no, they'll do what they always do.
And
they tack on 45 minutes. Yeah,
and it just like this one, I feel like more than Beauty and the Beast worked on stage. Like obviously that movie is garbage, but the remake is garbage. But like it worked on stage.
You're the one who wrote that piece, Esther, right? When whichever one came out, how weird it is that Disney doesn't take more inspiration from their stage shows when they're remaking this movies. Am I misremembering that you wrote a piece about that?
I don't think I wrote something specifically that. I think I wrote I definitely wrote a lot about that, like in terms of when I was reviewing Lion King, how it doesn't make sense that they're not taking from, like in that case especially since the Lion King was so innovative and felt so different, like, and then to do a carbon copy, but somebody else might have written like a more specific
I feel like it when they make these decisions. So in Beauty and the Beast, they did it as well, obviously, where they don't use the musical songs. They instead write great songs about, for example, how he's the Beast,
right? Which was a plot hole in the original film. It's very hard to follow.
He never actually said it.
Also, how Jasmine will never be speechless, of course.
She will
never be speechless, okay? She won't.
How angry do you think they are that they burned that concept on Aladdin and not Little Mermaid, as they're trying to come up with the fucking shitty filler songs for Little Mermaid? And they're like, okay, what's the thing we have to make woke now? Oh, she's speechless.
Fuck, we can't.
Fuck.
It is, and we will, you know what, most likely one day do Guy Ritchie. That's a live action one. Come on, The Gentlepods.
Oh, God.
The Gentleman, which is the 8th highest grossing film of 2020, right?
Right, exactly. It's right behind Sonic the Hedgehog. But
I did want to make one point about the Little Mermaid live action movie.
Please.
Your number one guy is starring in it.
Wait. My number. You mean? Wait, who do you mean? Here's who I'm going to try and go through who's in the Little
David,
Mermaid live action.
What performer is saving theatrical movie going with his bare hands?
Oh, Trims. Oh yeah, that's right. He's Flounder, right? He's Flounder.
I mean, that's a slam dunk piece of casting to have Tremblay be Flounder.
He's your number one guy.
I love Trems, and I just also look because Flounder just has big, responsible energy. You know, like Flounder's the guy who's like, Ariel, you gotta get out of here. Like, and that is kind of Tremblay's energy.
Good Boys was a dry run for Flounder. Here's my frustration. I think they should have done it like the fish in the tank in Monty Python and the Meaning of Life. I think it should be Tremblay with yellow face paint, and there's a prosthetic fish around his head, and he's wearing a green jumpsuit, and they erase his body. It's just his head floating around.
So, all right, wait, here, I'm going to try and from memory. All right, so I know, I forget the name of the Little Mermaid, but is she an unknown actress, or is she?
They're twins? They're twin pop stars?
Yeah, they're not twins, actually.
They're not, but they're sisters?
Chloe and Halle are not twins, they're sisters.
Okay.
And it's Halle is Little Mermaid.
It must suck to be the other one.
Right, you don't get to be
now.
anything.
I can't stop feeling bad for Chloe. Okay. But yeah.
So I know Javier Bardem is playing King Triton.
Right, which I think is a bad casting choice.
I do think is really weird. Yeah. I mean, I'm sort of intrigued to see it. I'm intrigued to see many of Javier Bardem performance, actually, but I don't know.
But I think that's the one area with these movies where usually on paper the casting choices are really good and are better than the fan casting shit that people come up with. And this is the first one where I'm just like, every fan cast idea I heard for Triton was better than Bardem. who I think just has the wrong energy.
Isn't he just going to be like his Pirates of the Caribbean character?
Yes, he's just going to have the fucking Drake Sprite head.
Jack Sparrow.
I've never seen Dead Men Tell No Tales.
No one's seen Dead Men Tell No Tales. Literally no one's seen it. It doesn't exist. No, you didn't. That's a psyop. You think you saw it. No one saw it. It's never been screened.
Oh, boy. That is, anyway. Okay. All right. I know Melissa McCarthy is playing Ursula, which has certainly,
Another.
Go ahead.
I think terrible idea. I think
You
like
think it's a bad idea?
I think she's a bad choice.
Yeah.
Why do you think she's bad? I'm not challenging you. I am sort of neutral on the whole thing.
I think she had, I love Melissa McCarthy. I love her so much. I'm rooting for her. I wish she would make better choices with her career. But
agree with that.
I feel like she has a goofy energy and not the sort of...
Not malevolent, right.
Not the malevolent, bitch queen of the sea energy that I want for Ursula.
Yeah, I also think part of Melissa McCarthy's appeal is a sort of very calibrated sloppiness, right? That which Ursula
like spy, right? Yeah,
right. No, but I'm not saying I don't mean this in any way.
No, but you're saying
but I think part of her comedic
Ursula,
sensibility is her riffing sort of thing, and how good she is at physical comedy and all this shit is making things feel kind of organic. Whereas Ursula is very theatrical, performative, and I also think Melissa McCarthy's fastball is anger, but it's often misplaced anger. It's not menace. Which Ursula has to be genuinely menacing.
Well, the only thing I'm going to say in defense, there's two things. One, as you guys are saying, I kind of just want her to do anything that's not Ben Falcone comedies that are going straight to gas stations.
Yeah,
right?
I agree.
So, that are called The Lady. And you're like, what's it about? It's well, what if a lady was in a town? I'm like, is there anything else? They're they bought it before we even said anything more. So that's what it's about.
I'm just realizing now, is Falcone
She's wearing a wig.
Is Falcone gonna play fucking Flop Sam? Is he?
Here's the thing. He can play Flotsam and Jetsam. He's a perfectly enjoyable screen presence. As long as he's not creatively involved.
I agree with you, David, but I think the second you allow him onto set, it's sort of vampire rules. You can't let him onto the soundstage. Because I've heard stories about some of the movies that he ostensibly didn't direct that got kind of Falcone.
Oh, that he okay, all right.
Yeah.
Well, so that's it. But two, the thing about Melissa McCarthy and Esther, you and I had a whole debate about this recently. Not that you disagreed with me, but we were just talking about how weird her career is. She's just so talented. And she's surprised me in the past.
She's so talented. Yeah.
There's multiple Melissa McCarthy projects that I walked into pretty okay. And so maybe she can shock me. I don't know, but maybe not. I don't know. Maybe I also think the movie will stink because I think Rob Marshall's a bad director.
He's a bad director.
The thing with Melissa McCarthy, and obviously we can move on from this, but a while ago when I was working at the AV Club, they did one of those AV Club Q&As, and one of the questions was who is an actor that you will see in whatever? And at that point in time, I said Melissa McCarthy because I'd seen all of them. I'd seen Tammy, I'd seen The Boss. I kept going in with these high hopes.
Ditto.
And now I've finally fallen off where it's I'm not gonna fucking watch Super Intelligence. But
I watched it like a sadist because I'm rooting for her so hard.
How is it?
It's bad. It fucking sucks. It's so shitty. But it also is she's so innately talented. I don't think there is a single performer alive, let alone a movie star of that stature, where the gulf is that wide between their best work and their worst work with nothing in between. It's so cut and dry, and unfortunately it's now become her only good comedies are directed by Paul Feig. And otherwise, pretty much, you can only expect her to be good sometimes when she's working outside of her home genre. Right?
Exactly. Right.
But then there's shit like The Kitchen where you're that should have been a layup.
The Kitchen is right.
I don't blame that on her.
That movie
is so insane.
Right.
That movie is insane. She's fine in it, I guess. That movie just felt I don't know.
That movie's crazy.
It felt like like I was going to walk out and people were going to be like, you didn't see a movie in there. Like, it just felt like something that didn't happen. I just wanted to say, Awkwafina is playing Scuttle.
Slam dunk.
Yes.
I think that's great.
Yeah.
That when because I had to check, I'd forgotten. And when I looked that up, I was like, oh, that's nice.
That's like good Galaxy Brain shit. That's like, oh, you're not going to get someone to do a Buddy Hackett impression. What's like a parallel energy?
That's the thing. Who is 2020's Buddy Hackett? Maybe Awkwafina.
Yeah. I think it's smart. Yeah.
I wrote down like stupid notes when I was watching the movie yesterday. And one of them was like, because again, Bob was like, all the other pigeons are, I mean, not pigeons, all the other seagulls look normal and Scuttle looks fucked up. And I was like, Scuttle's like, you know, one of those New York pigeons that you like see and it has like one leg and it's like all sort of like looks weird. And like, it's sort of like Scuttle's like a New Yorker that's been transported to the sea off the coast of France, I guess.
I mean,
we can't try and plumb the geography of this fucking movie. What time is it set in?
No, none of that.
Where are we? Who knows? I don't know.
I determined this time that it's off the coast of France because there's a map, I think.
No.
And then
no.
I don't know.
I can't get into this. Yes, there's a French chef, but Eric is American. Look, we just can't think about it.
It's so culturally unspecific. I will say I have a simpler answer for that one question for Bob, which is Scuttle's the only one who's Jewish. That's Scuttle's deal.
He is Jewish, right?
Yeah, right. He's canonically Jewish. I will take no questions at this time.
And then David Diggs is Sebastian. That seems like a good call.
Yeah.
And then who is Prince Eric? I guess it doesn't.
It's like an unknown guy. They offered to Harry Styles and he turned it down.
They tried to get Harry Styles and he was like, no.
Here's the thing I want to say. Let's get into the 1999 movie, obviously, but here's the thing I want to say about Prince Eric. Because I feel like he gets a bad rap because he's boring and doesn't really contribute much.
Also, he falls madly in love with someone who he cannot have a conversation with. Like, it's kind of a bad sign.
Right. But he's a chiller. All he wants to do is sit on the boat, play his flute, play with his dog.
He loves his fucking flute. He loves his flute.
You know, he's got some nice casual wear. He doesn't stand on ceremony when they're having this fancy dinner and his aide de camp is like, oh, right?
The best shot of Eric is, I think it's the night after Kiss a Girl, or maybe it's the night before Kiss a Girl, where it just cuts to like him in the dark, like with a flowing cape, like playing his flute. Just into the night.
Yeah, he loves to play the flute.
Yeah.
And Ariel
Great
washes
dog
up,
dad.
I'm sure she's like, yeah, he's good dog dad. He's like, Ariel's like, I can't talk. He's not like bothering her about that. Where he's like, why can't you talk? He's just like, oh yeah, whatever, man. Like, that's cool. You want to roll with me and I'll play my flute. And you know, he's a friendly fella. And you know
who the voice actor is, right?
I don't, but I do know, I'm going to look it up now, but I do know someone who was like the runner-up for that role. Do you want to know who?
Who?
Jim Carrey.
I did see that.
What?
Yeah. Isn't that wild? Like young Jim Carrey.
And Michael Richards almost played Scuttle.
That's wild too.
Oh God.
He would have been good.
Yeah, he would have been good.
I know, but like, thank God for history's sake that like we didn't have to do
I mean, it all
Scuttle.
worked out. Yeah. Wait, who voiced Eric?
I'm forgetting the guy's name, but he was also 90s.
Daniel Barnes. Yes.
He was 90s cartoon Spider-Man.
Oh,
he was like the main Spider-Man of the 90s.
Right. No, I watched that show. Absolutely.
And
the Spider-Man the animated series.
And he's Greg Brady in the Brady Bunch movies.
Oh, okay.
He looks like Prince Eric in real life. Yeah.
That's cool. I respect it.
Yeah, he's just the ultimate, like, perfect kind of cartoon leading man voice actor. Like, he's just got the cleanest, like hello, I'm a man. I'm a person.
Right.
Yeah.
Because, like, the Beast is such an insane, problematic romantic lead, right?
Yes.
Like, just a bananas. Whereas Eric, it's like, yeah, he's boring, but, he's fine. He's nice enough.
I also feel like to get into the things that people, take
complain
issue
about
with this movie in 2020, you can literally all attribute it to all of the decisions that she makes. It's like people are like, oh, she gives up her legs for a man. What about it? It's like she's 16 and
Yeah.
horny as hell. She's
Yeah.
so stupid. I feel like when you're watching it, like as an adult, you're like, yeah, I would do the same thing because I was dumb and I want to, and I was.
She
horny.
wants to go somewhere.
Yeah.
Her only friend
Yeah.
is a fucking dumb cuck fish. She hangs at her teacher is a seagull who's, let's be honest, not half there.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Not
If you're
playing with a
asking
full
questions about this movie, you are a freak. Like the freaks I'm seeing when I search fan art.
Yeah.
David messaged me earlier this morning that saying that Flounder is a cuck, which is I think one of his main takes.
I should probably
Like,
chill out calling everything a cuck. And Ursula is a sorceress. She knows what she's doing. She knows how to talk
David,
you into
she's a
signing
sea
your life
witch.
array.
Yeah.
She's a sea witch. Yes, she does sea witchery.
A wild thing to think about.
Go ahead.
That Sofia Coppola came this close to doing a live action Little Mermaid for
Would
Universal.
love to see it.
And the
Would
reason
love to
she
have seen
quit is because Universal wouldn't let her cast Maya Thurman Hawke.
Is that true?
That's true.
Why she would have been great.
Yeah, she discovered her, and they were like, "We're not going to hire an unknown."
Wait, where'd she
An
discover
unknown
her?
whose last names are Thurman and Hawk.
Yeah, exactly. Like, what the fuck are you talking about?
She would have added another lobster and they would have been Bella and Sebastian.
Ben's leaning in for that one.
Incredible.
Ben's happy.
Sorry, had to.
He doesn't miss, folks.
Yeah, I mean, Maya Hawke is great.
Yeah.
I actually think she's very talented. It is one of those things where you're like, you know what? These famous people have kids, and guess what? They're really attractive, and they know what they're doing in front of a camera. Like,
But also,
who
like,
knew two hotties had this kid who's like a
Sophia
movie star?
Coppola, I guess, game recognized game, knows good nepotism when she sees it, called
That's the
it.
thing.
Like-
But do you think that's what it was, though? They were like, Sophia, come on.
She called it. This was like 4 years ago, and they were like, "We really want Chloe Grace Moretz," and she quit, and the movie never got made.
They wanted Chloe Grace. That would stink.
Yeah.
Oh, man. And I don't even hate Chloe Grace Moretz anymore. She's
Star
given
of
like...
Tom and Jerry, Chloe Grace Moretz.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Oh,
Yes.
God. Is she in Tom and Jerry?
Yeah,
Who's she
she's the lead
playing?
of Tom and
David,
Jerry.
is she in Tom? Have you not seen the Tom and Jerry trailer?
I have not. I
David,
just
you have
decided
to
that
watch
there
the
were
Tom-
other things I
David,
wanted to do.
You have to watch the Tom and Jerry trailer.
David, do you know?
Do I?
It's
You do.
massive.
You do. Do you know that Tom and Jerry are hand drawn? That Tom and Jerry
That's cool.
takes place in some weird Roger Rabbit style universe? It's unclear
Oh.
if it's like, oh, they're cartoons, or if in this universe all animals look like cartoons, but they're a bunch of pigeons singing Juice by Lizzo, and there's a cartoon elephant.
Colin Jost rides the cartoon elephant.
Colin Jost is in this thing?
The central conflict of the Tom and Jerry movie, directed by Tim Story,
Sure.
is that Chloe Grace Moretz is a new hire at New York's fanciest hotel, working for Michael Pena and a fucking catastrophe.
Rob Delaney.
Rob Delaney. And they're like, we have a mouse problem. Should we hire exterminators? And she's like, why hire exterminators when we can hire a cat? And she hires Jerry, and they're trying to clean the place out before Colin Jost has what is referred to in the trailer as the wedding of the century.
Wow.
This all sounds
Anybody
great.
could just make those decisions. That's so dumb.
Chaos ensues.
Right, but they actually
chaos
right.
ensues.
That one was actually just them throwing dice every single time they had to make a decision. They were like, "All right, if we roll,
Oh,
we're
they
gonna roll a
must have,
d20
yeah.
here, right?"
No, just a wall, and they threw darts at it. Literally. I mean, it must be.
Of the century. I'm just dying to hear who Colin Jost's character is supposed to be in this universe.
Do you know who Colin Jost is married to in
Princess
real life?
Diana. Clearly.
Yeah.
Colin Jost is Princess Diana. Like, that's what it can only be that.
And he's canon Colin Jost. They're like, the star of Weekend Update is marrying Princess Diana, who's alive in this universe.
I'm just
That's what it's like?
so excited because every time I watch Weekend Update, I go, why isn't this guy in movies? I really want to see him in movies. That feels like where he belongs. David, I'm sorry to veer off track for a little bit, but I gotta bring this
Okay,
up.
let's veer off track. We're off track now. We're in the weeds, but that's okay.
Watching Little Mermaid. We're in the seaweeds, one could argue.
Yeah, you could say it if you really wanted
We're
to.
under the sea. We're in the seaweeds. I'm watching this movie, and I keep thinking to myself, it must be cold under the sea.
Chilly.
Right.
Very true.
Right. Those flippers look so exposed.
You know, you got real far down there, sun's not reaching very well, you know, it's getting real cold.
No, and there's like jellyfish and there's all sorts of stingy shit and rocks and whatever. I'm just like, I'm watching this movie and every single moment Ariel's flipping around, I'm thinking, put some socks on that fin, you know? Put some socks on your tail, baby.
I mean, maybe even the most comfortable socks in the history of feet or tails.
Probably that'd be good.
Yeah.
Good place to start.
Yeah, I mean, Bombas, our friends at Bombas.
Bombas, our friends at Bombas.
They've rethought every little detail of the socks we wear to make them more comfortable. I literally wear them every single day. I like the merino socks. They've got a lot of options. I have a lot of colors, but really it's just like they're very comfortable. They're very pillowy, but they don't get too sweaty and warm.
Can I make an embarrassing confession?
Please.
I don't own enough pairs of Bombas socks. You talk about how it's the only thing you wear and your life seems so much more relaxed than mine. And meanwhile, I'm like waiting for like, oh, it's Bombas Day. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, it might be Bombas Day because listen, Griff, they do more than just keep your feet cozy. Bombas gives back to the most vulnerable members of our community. Every pair of socks you purchase, they donate a pair to someone in need. They've donated almost over 40 million pairs of socks through a nationwide network of 3,000 giving partners. To those experiencing homelessness, it's just part of the dignity of putting on clean clothes. It's a small comfort. It's very important right now. So if you went on a Bombas shopping spree, you know, you're distributing socks everywhere.
I need to do that because I need more socks and I want to distribute more socks to the world. And because Bombas, of course, was a Shark Tank product. I remember their pitch. They said the whole reason they thought of this one-for-one system, their business model, is because when they did research, they found out that socks were like the #1 most requested item at shelters. Do you know that? It was like it was a very pointed thing. It's a very fundamental item of clothing in terms of giving people a sense of warmth, but also a sense of dignity. And the unhoused people need as much help as they can get in this horrible, horrible time to be a human being. So buy some socks that look good, that feel great, make you feel better, and at the same time you get to know that you're helping someone else out.
And you can give a pair when you buy a pair and get 20% off your first purchase at bombas.com/check. That's BOMBAS.com/check for 20% off your first purchase. Bombas.com/check.
The Little Mermaid,
which
is a 1989 film written and directed by Ron Clements and John Musker. And I do want to point that out because that's unusual for Disney at the time. Mm-hmm. It's just credited to them as writers as well as directors.
Although, I mean, by all accounts, Ashman deserves a lot of credit. I mean, he really helped shape the story.
Is the producer, which obviously, is a huge acknowledgement of his creative involvement. Right.
But Ashman came in, they had a script, and he kind of went through with a machete and went like, too many characters, make this bigger, make this smaller. He was the one who
Sebastian Jamaican.
Right, make Sebastian Jamaican, make Ursula divine, right? Like, I mean, he had so many of the essential character hooks he brought with him.
And it should be said, this movie is 80 minutes long.
Wow.
It like crams a whole plot in there despite having lots of strange digressions. Like, I mean, the most obviously the I Want song, part of your world is such an impressive thing. But like, I think Ashman in the Howard documentary, they talk about how about how the Ursula convincing her to give up her voice.
Poor unfortunate souls.
Yeah, it is poor unfortunate. Yeah, it's all bundled in there. Like there's so much that happens in those 4 minutes that they get through without it seeming insane.
He talks about like how in Poor Unfortunate Souls, she literally introduces herself and convinces her to give up. They meet. She explains.
She's like, "What's your deal?" Okay.
Yeah. she explains her whole plot. She explains what you're gonna do, and it's like, I'm taking your voice by the end of the song. Like, she literally, Poor Unfortunate Souls is such a good song.
It's an incredible song.
Rules so hard. I'm a very busy woman, and I haven't got all day.
She's so good.
Yeah. I mean, that's like the argument for musicals as a storytelling form is not just the, this sort of like emotionally ecstatic truth that you can reach, but also just like the fucking economy of this thing. That shit goes down smoother in a song, you know? You can you get a lot of shoe leather out of the way.
That's the thing. Because if it was dialogue, Ariel would be like, oh, can I say bye to my dad? Like, I need to pack some things. And it's like, no. You're going to the earth now.
And it's also just the buy-in. Like, as an audience member, you accept these sort of narrative leaps more easily because you've already bought into the idea that people sing their thoughts. You know, it's just like,
right.
I think it's one of the reasons why the whole Ratatouille musical thing on TikTok has been so potent is because, like, you step back and you're like, Ratatouille does feel like the premise of a musical. It's almost more bizarre that they landed on that premise not in a musical. Because the idea that there are long dialogue scenes where he's like, if you pull this lock, this arm moves up is wild.
Absolutely.
That only seems like that could be explained through a song.
I do feel like the Ashman thing with this too is like one of the things that really annoys me that people always say when they're talking about part of your world is that like it's, you know, it sounds exactly the same as Somewhere That's Green. And like it does sound very similar to Somewhere That's Green from Little Shop, but it's also just a typical I Want song. But I do feel like it is the thing that is so interesting about like what he was able to do is like he did this with Little Shop where, and he talks a lot about this in the documentary where it's like, I'm taking the horror form, like I'm plugging musical theater into this like B horror movie format in Little Shop. And then he sort of reverses that. And I think you see so much like Little Mermaid does feel like the sort of the three Disney musicals, like the one that's most like analogous to Little Shop in that like it has the like Poor Unfortunate Souls sort of does the same thing as Feed Me, you know, like it offers the same thing, you know, Somewhere That's Green does the same thing as Part of Your World, blah, blah, blah. But it's just really interesting because it's these two sort of, in Little Shop, he's putting musical into horror movie. In, you know, in Little Mermaid, he's putting musical into Princess Disney's animation. Like basically everything is forming each other. I'm like blabbering on, but it feels like
but
everything
like,
is informing each other, and they're all, you know, and he's sort of he's using these baseline formulas to like reinvent genres just time and time again.
Absolutely. It makes it easy to digest.
Right. On paper, Little Shop is an inherently sarcastic exercise, right? It's the idea of like, is anything less on paper obvious to turn into a musical? But it's both like something of a challenge to himself of like, look, I can turn anything into a musical and apply it. And also he really found the kernel of the story there that works well in the sort of musical format. Whereas Little Mermaid is on paper much more of a musical. But the secret thing he unlocked in Little Shop is to play it incredibly straight, to have a real sincerity to the emotions. So it's not like he has to, like, by removing the satirical edge, the songs in Little Mermaid feel defanged. The funniest thing he does in Little Shop is play the songs incredibly straight.
Even though he's making fun of like the idea of the I Want song with Somewhere That's Green, because you know he taught, you know, because she's singing about like wanting, like watching Howdy Doody.
But it also genuinely works as an I Want song. Like you don't take it as a goof, and it's the Ellen Green thing of just like you get the right person singing the song like it means everything in the world, and you're gonna choke up. You know, it doesn't matter if a couple of the lines are jokes.
The thing is, and this is true of all three of his Disney movies, you know, right, there's so much humor in the lyrics, even when it's serious. And Part of Your World has all these,
Who's a what
asides about.
yeah.
Exactly. And also, but right, yeah. I mean, in you can just Google it. But him directing Jodie Benson singing that song, it's so
Incredible.
cool to watch.
Unbelievable. Yeah.
Like, because it's collaborative. I mean, he obviously was this very intense dude, and had such fixed specific ideas of like how, like he's just one of those arty types who knows what he wants. Like, and it's more just how to figure out how to get it out of whoever he's collaborating. But like, she's so locked in with him. It's so fun to watch them figure it out together.
Well, she was also the star of Smile. She was
Right.
like
Yes.
she sort of like, she said like, I feel like he offered me, the chance to audition for Ariel because he felt bad about Smile flopping so hard.
And I think the two of them felt kind of unified in the idea of like, this might be the big break. There's a certain like foxhole solidarity that comes when people fail together on that scale,
Yeah.
Absolutely. Jodie Benson, of course, voice of Barbie in the Toy Story.
I was going to
movies, right?
say, I mean, I just think Jodie Benson never really gets enough credit, and
She's
rewatching this movie today, it's such a fucking good performance, especially considering that
so
she
good.
doesn't talk for the second half of the movie. Like, the work she does in the first 45 minutes has to be strong enough to carry you through the remaining 45 minutes less.
But absolutely true. It's also just a total. I mean, Glenn Keane is her animator, right? Is the main animator, and says that she looks like his wife.
Yeah.
And I mean, Ariel is like the most incredible piece of character animation. Like the way her hair moves around.
The hair alone. The hair's the whole
hair.
fucking thing.
The
When
whole
you're a little
physicality
girl, the
of
hair
her.
is just so important. The
Yes.
hair
Right.
is so
Just like
important.
all her sort of flouncing, her hand on chin, like there's just so much teenagedom that I feel like when you're a kid, you just totally get it from her.
Yeah. I mean, Glenn
yeah.
Keane's one of the best character
He's- right.
animators in history. There have been few people that good at animation performance, and I think he's one of those guys where like Rapunzel was his passion project for years and years
Right.
and
That's
years.
the one he wanted to make, right?
Right.
Right.
And to
Yeah.
some degree, I think Disney kept fucking him over and not letting him direct because they didn't want to lose him as a lead animator, because he was just so valuable on a character focus level that it's like, why make our best pitcher the team manager? Does that track, David? Does that?
It does. No, that
tracks?
absolutely
Okay.
that's absolutely that was a very good analogy,
Hey.
actually.
Hey.
But that's right, because he's kind of your ace, exactly.
Sure.
One of the things I was thinking about, like, just in terms of watching, when I mentioned, like, watching it from this new perspective, thinking about the direction, is the way that Musker and Clemens sort of, like, take not just, like, a straight lyric to visual sort of transfer, but they take the spirit of Ashman's lyrics, like the way that we were talking about, like throwing, even in a perfectly serious song, throwing in the jokes, and interpret that like visually. Like, I feel like Part of Your World is full of that in a way that I had sort of forgotten. Like, you have Sebastian sort of watching part of your world the whole time, and his
That's him
reflection coming up.
Right. That's when he switches sides, basically. Like, that's him understanding her plight much more deeply.
Oh, the best character in the movie. Yeah.
But also he's knocking over things. He's like, there are these visual jokes within it. I just feel like it's really interesting. It's such a collaborative art, and it's so interesting looking at all the ways that.
Wait a second. Did you know that Sebastian is his last name?
What?
No.
I just Googled, or I clicked on.
What's his
Here is
first
his
name?
full name. Here is his full name. And of course, as you guys mentioned, he's not in the Hans Christian Andersen story, which you should read, and is bananas and has nothing to do with the Little Mermaid, the movie, really. And she turns into sea foam at the end, and yada yada yada. But
his name is Lin-Manuel Sebastian. Sorry,
no, it's
sorry.
not that.
I had-
Thank God.
I had to.
But as you alluded to, he was originally going to be an English butler lobster. It totally makes sense that that's
Like that
Why
seems
do we
that's just so obvious.
keep calling him a lobster? He's a crab.
Yeah.
No, he was going to be a lobster.
Oh,
and he was
okay.
going to be
Okay,
called
okay.
Clarence, not Sebastian.
What?
and I imagine he would have been like Zazu, right? He would have been like,
Yeah.
don't do that, right? Like a lot of,
It sounds like a fucking herb.
Yeah, exactly. And so Howard Ashman is like, no, he should be a crab. He should be like Jamaican. And I want to write the music to that. But apparently his full name is Horatio Thelonious Ignatius Crustaceus Sebastian.
That fucking rules. That is the best name of all time. Holy shit.
And of course, he's voiced by Samuel E. Wright,
Yeah.
who is so wonderful in this
I mean,
movie.
incredible.
And
The design
I
of
believe
Sebastian
originated
is so
Mufasa
incredible,
on
too.
Broadway.
He did. He was Mufasa
Yes,
for
I
he
love
years.
the
originated
design
with
of
Boss
it.
on Broadway.
Yeah. That's a thing I was going to say, too. Trying to identify what is like the specific sort of skill set that Musker Clements bring to these movies against the other films of the Disney Renaissance. I feel like there's a sort of, how do I even put this? There is a sort of holistic tone that is able to cover all of the different modes that the movie has to play in, right? Between genuine menace and romance and comedy and swooning emotions and the music and the dialogue scenes and all of that. And I feel like a lot of the non-Musker Clements films, as enjoyable as they may be, there is that sort of like cognitive dissonance between like, oh, Mushu is really goofy, and then there are scenes in Mulan
this
that
is a
are
good point. Yes.
really straight,
Yeah.
you know?
Right.
I feel like
Yeah, I mean,
Pocahontas, which I like more than a lot of people, has that problem too, where like some of it is like really kind of like arty and adult, and then some of it
Yeah.
is so goofball McGillicuddy.
Hunchback is similar.
Same thing. Yeah, a perfect
I
example.
agree.
Like
And
Hunchback is in a way my favorite of the era, but then you just have to ignore all the shit with the gargoyles, which sticks out like a sore thumb. And I feel like the Musker Clements films are balanced. Like they know they have the right sort of comedic energy to be able to contain all of this while still giving it appropriate weight.
I agree with you completely. I think this is why, as much as I like Hunchback and I like we mentioned another one that I really like, because Pocahontas and
Mulan,
Mulan I have
Pocahontas.
trouble with. No, but Hunchback I love.
I think Tarzan
and
has this problem too.
Tarzan
where, like,
hugely has that
right,
problem.
the shit
I
with
guess
the,
it's really just,
with the tiger and the shit with Rosie O'Donnell are two entirely
it feels
different
crammed
movies.
in.
Yes.
It feels like Disney checking boxes. Like, well,
Yes.
now, come on, the kids need a funny sidekick. They need a
Right.
and Musker and Clements. And part of the thing that I don't know what it is about them that like they nail this. I think with this and with Aladdin, but like it's that every character just feel. I don't. They just sell you on Sebastian the Crab being the number 2 guy who's gonna kind of work with Triton and with Ariel. It doesn't make any sense. I don't know, like whatever.
A lot of it's personality and a lot of it's good comedic instincts, right? I mean, like comedy is one of the fastest ways to successfully sort of define character, and I think they get that. But it also like this. You see this movie coming up with a template that starts to doom Disney to diminishing returns after this. I'm not saying everything from here on out is bad, but it's like the TV dinner thing of like, okay, you need 4 animal sidekicks. 2 of them talk, 2 of them are silent. The romantic interest is like this, the villain's like this, the villain has 3 henchmen. Like you have this many comedy scenes, this much physical comedy, this much romance. Like this movie is such a successfully rounded balance of everything.
The other thing is like obviously the factor that's not in, and not to take away from Musker and Clements' like contributions, but like obviously the other factor is that like also Ashman is not involved in the outside of
he's not.
Absolutely.
No, he's not.
He's not like and outside of, but you almost sort of see him, and maybe it's a Menken thing too. It's hard to sort of interpret it what's there, but like you see almost the lessons that maybe Musker and Clements absorbing the lessons that like and the tone that Howard is bringing with
I think so.
all of the songs in these later works, you know. I mean, it's so funny because like Hercules is obviously not Ashman had died before it was made. But you know, but the muses are basically the same convention as Little
Ashman
Shop,
would have crushed that movie. I mean, Ashman is the missing element in Hercules, which is a really interesting movie. But that's what it's lacking.
You sort of wonder if because Little Mermaid was the first one, it was the first one where all these elements came together.
Yeah.
That maybe like Musker and Clemens, like farther down the line, absorbed more of sort of just this process that worked so well.
I agree, and I think we'll spend a whole episode on Hercules, but my instinct, you know, from the last couple times I've rewatched it is like, I think the songs in Hercules rule. I think it doesn't have the story instincts that Ashman would have brought to how those songs correspond to the movie at large. And I think I think Ashman taught Musker and Clemens and Disney animation at large a lot about storytelling. That I think started to get watered down and become a little more rote and mechanized, his lessons after his death. But I also think you have to give Musker and Clements a lot of credit for execution because of how much they had to successfully sell this through the performance of the animation, a medium that he did not know at all. Like, even though you see the clips of how much he was working with the voiceover actors and the orchestra and how much he was working with the writers and everything, at the end of the day, Musker and Clements didn't just have to make this work visually, but they had to make it work on a visual performance level, which they really, really do.
I just my final point, Musker and Clements, Moana, I think, is the biggest testament to this because Moana excises things that it doesn't need.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't have a lot of the stuff that we're talking about in ways that feel like, well, we have to do this, so we're going to do it. You know, like, yes, of course, she's got a little chicken with her, and we stand the chicken. The chicken's great, and we're going to talk about the chicken. But they just don't feel the need to, like, have the chicken talk and have a song. You know, like, it just feels like
they also get rid of that pig. They leave that pig on the island.
I know.
They do. And the pig's cute.
Choice. Yeah.
Pig's
it's so
cute.
funny, too, because, like, when they leave the pig on the island, I remember thinking, like, I can't believe they're sacrificing merchandise sales like that by leaving the pig on the island. And then I speak to, like, kids, like my friends who have young kids, and they love the fucking pig. And I'm like, shows me, like, it still works. You get 10 minutes of the pig, and the kids buy the pig for the rest of their life. Yeah.
Pig rules. Come on.
Yeah, the pig rules.
No, we'll talk about the pig. So, Little Mermaid. Ariel is a princess. She lives in an underwater kingdom apparently called Atlantica. What the fuck? Atlantica?
David, just because I'm a little confused about something, what size is she?
She's low.
Oh, okay.
She's a Little Mermaid. It's a fair point.
Sorry,
she's not little. She's regular size.
No, she's kind of a Little Mermaid compared to Triton.
Triton is an absolute unit. Look at the size of that lad. He is huge. His fucking trident is bigger than Ariel. Like,
Triton's nipples are very large.
The nipple thing has resonated with me, I think, from birth. I think I always was like, there's something wild about this guy's big old nips. Like, you know, that just sort of makes him more dad-like, I guess, in a weird way. I don't know if I have more for you on that.
When you watch this, would you get a tear in your eye? Do you go? It reminds me of Daddy's nips. Is that what you're saying?
It's not that it's like. It's just like there's something. There's everything about him is big. I guess is what I'm talking about.
Right.
Nips, hair, crown, trident, and bad attitude. I mean, you know, the guy's got a bit of a short fuse.
Yeah.
But he does love his daughter. His daughter only loves the human world.
Yeah.
She wants to go there. She wants to, it's the simplest story. She just wants to escape. She wants to grow up and, you know, roam beyond pastures, pastures.
Right. It's the same thing. It's that potency. It's the let it go thing of just like, any kid of any age capable of cognizant thought, right, can track onto that feeling of just like, I'm over it. I'm so frustrated with this and what my parents tell me I have to do. And Ariel's the same thing where it's just like dreaming about what life will be like if you get to do things on your own terms.
Right. She's also, though, kind of like into like vintage. And she's like, this is all stuff I didn't realize until watching it recently. She's kind of like exploring like abandoned old factories,
like found art
boats.
kind of thing.
Yeah. Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
yes,
I really related. She like pieced out on this recital to go to an abandoned sunken boat. I'm like, hell yeah. You're cool as hell.
Right. Tangle with a shark that is no joke. That shark wants to murder her, even though she's like
he's
princess
chomping.
of the sea.
She's essentially like she's got like her like Pinterest curation of like objects, right?
Yes.
Like her mood board of like,
perfect teenager. Again, we can all relate, right? Like okay. Sebastian, of course, as conductor of Triton's orchestra, is keeping tabs on her.
Yeah.
And I'll say, and Triton wants her to get with a guy, but unlike in Aladdin where they're like throwing suitors at Jasmine or whatever, like it's not like Triton's bringing anyone around. He's making no effort to actually like give. I guess he's trying to present her to society in the first scene. Is that sort of the idea?
Yeah,
maybe
they're introducing her.
Right, like it's that this will be like her big intro to adulthood, like it's her cotillion.
Yeah, but I feel like he's not really that concerned with like marrying her off. He just like wants her to chill out.
But when she's in love, he's like, "Oh, who's she in love with?" And I'm like, "Who do you think? Like, there's no men around here.
Yeah.
Like, what do you think? She fell in love with a rock? Like,
Harold."
Harold, that guy with the ruff. Sebastian is the movie's most well, okay, you know what? Actually, no, we should mention that the movie starts on a boat and there's a lot of, action with the sailors, the guys as well. Like it introduces you to Eric first and then to Triton and his kids and then to Ariel. Like it's not even trying to, Ariel's sort of this elusive figure for the first 10 minutes of the movie.
I mean, it's once again, it's weirdly something that gets replicated. Like Pocahontas has like the Virginia trading company, right? And we're saying Frozen has that sort of opening, but like you do the kind of world immersion number with a bunch of anonymous grunts just to place you in the setting. Right, and then you do a lot of wind up of the palace, the world, the rules. I mean, this was the last sort of analog 2D movie.
Hand-drawn,
after this, it goes to caps. It goes to computer scans and paints and colors. This is the last movie done in the traditional styles, but then with all these really complex effects added in, like the amount of bubble work in this movie is
there was some stat about that. It's Mark Dindal,
the
who of course
bubbles
eventually
are so insane. I kept noticing the bubbles on this watch, just how hard that must have been. And
because the bubbles are, anytime they speak or move, there are bubbles. Mark Dindal, who goes on to make The Emperor's New Groove, was in charge of the effects, and he said they drew 1 million bubbles.
Yeah.
That must have been very boring.
Fucking insane.
Right. But like this is the last one that's still using like a multi-plane camera and a Xerox machine and all these sort of like old techniques. You have some CGI elements, like the ship is CGI. Anytime you see the big ships, I mean, sort of structures like that. But there is a tactility to this, which also just like the shit, like the hair and the bubbles just blows your fucking mind. There is something to the fact that you never get out of your head. Like someone had to draw this. Like there's no simulation for this,
Yeah. And it's beautiful. I mean, it does look cheaper than Aladdin or Beauty and the Beast.
Totally.
And maybe it's just because they're switching to caps after this, right? But like in a way that is charming. Like it's not like it looks bad.
And those are also just generally more expensive and expansive productions. Like
it feels smaller than that. Like the movie is weirdly small.
It has like 5 locations in total, and 5 of those locations are very loose locations.
And the 5th lead is literally the fucking seagull. Maybe 6th lead.
Right.
Depending on where you put Flounder.
Right. It is a very contained movie in a lot of ways.
It is, and it's 80 minutes long, but has, a sequence where Rene Auberjonois plays a chef who tries to cook fish, which is a great sequence, obviously. That is the best. That's straight out of Looney Tunes, but like cuttable in theory. Like, it has these beautiful, quite like the moment where she watches the fireworks off the boat, and Menken's score, which is like his greatest score ever, is so cool and so atmospheric.
I think Beauty and the Beast is his greatest score.
That is.
I think Beauty and the Beast is his greatest score, but sorry.
Yeah. No, that's not a controversial opinion. That's totally.
The other score that I think is also his maybe most, like, could be one of his greatest scores is Hunchback. I think Hunchback is an incredible score.
I should rewatch Hunchback. It's been a while.
Hunchback's really good.
It's great. I remember. I loved it.
Yeah.
Bring, bring.
Oh, the phone. Hello? Ooh, what's this? Who's this on?
I don't know. It's like the Zoom window is like it's like a aquarium. It's all sort of just like fish. It's like just a lockdown shot of an aquarium. Wait a second, David, what's that swimming closer? There's a silhouette in the distance, a larger thing. Is it a shark? Is it a whale? It's swimming closer to the tank. Wait a second, it's coming to the light. Oh my gosh, David.
Wow.
The cineast cow. The cineast cow is underwater. What a cut up she is. She's got a little snorkel.
Sea cow.
She's the cineast sea cow. She's got a little snorkel. She's got little flippers on. Man, how funny she is. What a great character that continues to just take America by storm.
I mean, you'd think the cineast cow is going to drop in to talk about Mubi and just do the usual thing. Moo at us, say Mubi. That's about it. No, Cineast Cow doesn't mess around like that. Cineast Cow has a new angle every single time. Much like Mubi has such a dense library of movies to watch.
A new movie added every day. That's the point she's trying to make, is that every day is something new. She might be in an aquarium, or you might be able to watch a focused series of films from the Rotterdam Film Festival.
Look, it could be a timeless classic. It could be a cult favorite. It could be an acclaimed masterpiece. There's lots of movies on Mubi that you might be dying to see or have never heard of. There's always something new to discover. Everything is hand selected. Everything, thus, everything is interesting. Ooh, I'm taking a look at some of they've got these great curated sort of carousels. I'm looking at their like 1970s masterpieces right now.
At the time we're recording this, just a couple days before the episode comes out, the film of the day spotlighted Dark Star, H.R. Giger's World, a documentary about H.R. Giger and his influence on the Alien franchise. If you listen to our Alien series on Patreon, it's a perfect dollop of extra context for you.
Absolutely. They've got some cool exclusives right now. They have the Werner Herzog, Bruce Chatwin movie. They have Martin Eden. They have Terrence Dixon's James Baldwin documentary. Martin Eden, by the way, rules. Oh, God. What hot communists we stand. I'm just like, I get overwhelmed looking through some of the stuff they've got.
It's an embarrassment of riches. And they've changed their whole system. It's no longer the sort of 30 movies, one a day, one leaves, one comes. It's a library now. It's evergreen, things stay up for a long time, but yet still a new movie added every day. There's always going to be something new at Mubi. God, this is such a good selection. I'm just salivating thinking about these movies I'm going to watch. We should stop recording so I can watch a movie.
Let's stop talking about Mubi. But I will say you can try Mubi free for 30 days at Mubi.com/check. That's MUBI.com/check. You get a whole month of great cinema for free. Do it. You won't regret it.
I just have so many questions about like who set up the camera. Was she working with the aquarium, or did she break in?
The Cineast Cow is mysterious.
How did she get to the top of the tank?
Yeah, we don't know.
Very mysterious.
It is just one of those things where it's like, I understand music so little that I wish I had the language, but also just the ability to comprehend why dun-na-na-na-na-na-na-na is immediately so powerful, you know? And I don't just think it's a nostalgia thing. There's something about just like, it's some weird, that combination of notes at that speed just immediately is so evocative. And it's evocative of the exact thing. It sounds like underwater, and it also sounds like longing. It sounds like that sort of childlike, optimistic longing. And for it to contain both of those things at the same time, I don't understand how you land on something that simple and that elegant and that potent.
And she does, like, you know, throw her life away essentially because she swims up to a boat and looks at Eric, and Eric's playing the flute like a boss, and she loves it.
Yeah.
And yes, obviously, if you interrogate this from a logical plot, like, then yes, you'll get yourself in trouble. There are lots of things about these Disney movies that are fraught, but it's that elemental longing. It's, you know, she wants this thing that is so different.
But it's also like, it doesn't matter what guy it's. I mean, like, obviously it's complicated with, like, the ending, but it sort of doesn't matter what guy it is. It's just, like, he is everything that she does not have. He has legs. He's on land. That's, like, literally all she wants. He's hot. And, you know, she's a teenager. Like, I think that's the thing that, like, I realized watching it as an adult that was, like, so sad. It's just, like, she is supposed to be 16.
Right. She says her age.
Yeah.
Yeah. And 16-year-olds do shit like this. Like, it's fucked up that she gets married at the end of it, but, like, you know, but that's the Disney movie.
And Eric's the same way too, where it's just like, you know, it's funny that Eric is the one who gets more of the sort of setup of, like, they've aggressively been trying to marry him off. He's been meeting potential brides who he doesn't like, right?
Important question. What is Grimsby's relationship to Eric?
Every single time I watch this movie, I think Rene Auberjonois is Grimsby, because I'm just like, obviously that's what you cast him as. And then you get to the chef and I'm like, right, these lunatics.
No. So Eric is, as far as I can tell, a prince. It's just that he doesn't want any princely trappings, right? So he serves on the boat with the old sea dogs, and he, you know, keeps it real with his sheepdog, his big furry dog. So Grimsby's the guy who's like, well, of course I'm here to keep an eye on you, right? Like
he's the
like
Sebastian.
From the court.
He's the parents send out the one guy to just be like, just keep tabs.
In case he falls in love with a mermaid or a really hot lady who just kind of has sea witch energy. Just watch out for one of those. Maybe she's got a shell necklace that glows.
I've always thought that Ursula in human form was supremely hot. She's like hotter than Ariel. She's
so hot.
Oh
I was texting with Caroline.
She seems mean, and I'm like, sure.
Friend of the show. Yeah, Ben's like, interesting.
I'll listen to your show. You tell me whatever. Yeah, whatever, man.
Framke was like, yeah, there's an early crush for me in that movie. Can you guess? And I was like, is it Ursula as a woman or Vanessa? And she was like, bingo. Because, you know, obviously Ariel is a famous whatever early crush, I suppose, for kids. But Vanessa's she's out there. You know, keep an eye out.
Yeah, I honestly had the exact opposite thought of, she just seems too mean. Like I distinctly, I was like, I had the thought. I went, I guess she's pretty, but she just seems so mean.
I mean, she is mean. She's Ursula, and Ursula's mean. And Ursula, you know, unlike Scar or Jafar, where I guess they're all similar figures, right? They're outcast geniuses who are like, you know, all I want is to be in charge, but I'm the weirdo. I'm the scary one. I'm over here. Mm-hmm. But Ursula is phenomenal. Like, and like everything. God, this movie's so good. It's tough to talk about. Just the way every character's animated. Yeah. I'm kind of freaking it. You know, like, and Aladdin does this too. Everyone's a different shape. Everyone moves in a different way, right? Yeah. Like, this feels very, like, the way Ursula moves is so wonderful. The transformation when Vanessa turns back into Ursula and she kind of like explodes out of her is so cool. Ursula is so cool.
She's so cool. I love that first introduction. I had sort of forgotten about that first introduction.
When she
of
like
her
slinks
before-
out of the hole. Right.
When she slinks out of the hole, but also then it's like that sort of, it's that brief scene where you meet her. It's prior to Poor Unfortunate Souls. And then it ends with like her tentacles sort of taking over the screen and you just are left with like her eyes. And it's awesome.
Right.
So Ursula was written, or maybe not written to be. I was obviously based on Divine. Disney wasn't going to hire Divine. Disney really wanted B. Arthur, especially because they produced Golden Girls and they thought that was synergistic. B. Arthur turned it down, and then Elaine Stritch was hired, right?
She was cast and did not vibe with Ashman.
Sorry, before Ashman wanted it to be Joan Collins.
Right.
He that was another one. He wanted Joan Collins or whatever. She was a huge. He would cite Alexis Carrington, her character from Dynasty, as like, this is the vibe I want. This is the vibe I want. But yes, they did hire Elaine Stritch, and they did not get along. Her and Ashman.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I was gonna say I wonder what happened, but then I just thought to myself, well, I've seen the fucking.
It's the company documentary.
Exactly, it's the company documentary.
They just don't seem like they.
So
would
you
work.
just like animation is just recording a soundtrack only.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Elaine Stritch, whatever. Right. That's not her energy. So Pat Carroll. I mean, I feel like she's just like a Broadway person, right? She did like a Wonder Woman show on Gertrude Stein, right? Like, like that kind of stuff.
What was the thing I saw her in recently?
She was also, I believe, Shirley's mom on Laverne and Shirley.
Yes, that's right.
Yes.
She was.
And you know what is? I've been watching the Mary Tyler Moore Show, and she has a fucking unbelievable episode of the Mary Tyler Moore Show where I was just like, who the fuck is this? The whole episode is sort of based around this one-off character she plays, and then realized, oh, that's Ursula. Right. But her voice is so goddamn deep in
incredible.
It's so cool. She's still alive, She's 93 years old.
Yeah, it's wild.
Mazel.
It's one of those things where like you hear, Divine had obviously died by the time this movie came out. Although it was obviously in production before that, but like you hear some of the people they thought about, like Nancy Marchand and Roseanne, right? Nancy Wilson
Marchand.
From
Heart.
You're like, that's cool.
Tony Soprano's mother.
Right. But at the same time, you're like, but no one else could have done, like, this is a perfect voice performance. Like, it's ridiculous to imagine even Elaine Stritch or whatever.
I also saw it was playing weirdly like one Saturday afternoon at a bunch of AMC theaters like a year ago. And I went to see it impulsively because I hadn't seen it since I was a small child. So I'd seen this movie in a captive audience, on a big screen, full attention, fairly recently before rewatching it today. And even still, the first syllable out of her mouth, I was just like, whoa, like totally taken aback, surprised, caught off guard,
I think that's maybe the thing about Ursula that makes it like hard to imagine, just going back to the Melissa McCarthy conversation, it really is hard to imagine someone doing Ursula as well as this voice performance. It would have to be such like a radical choice that there's something so specific. It feels so universal. Like it does feel like it's taking all these influences, like, Alexis Carrington, Divine, like it's taking all these influences, but at the same time, it's so unique and it's sort of any imitation of it feels false. It's almost like I wish they just cast like Harvey Fierstein in it or something, so it'd be just like completely different or its own thing.
A lot of people were arguing they should have cast a man, which I think there's a really solid argument there, especially since visually the character is modeled after Divine, right?
Yeah.
But I also think like, did either of you see the Lizzo video?
Yeah. I
like
did,
it became such Yeah, it became such a meme sort of thing that I was just like, okay, but are we actually like going to cast her? And then I watched it and it was just like, no, you know what? She actually would do this well. She was just like, Disney, why won't you take my meeting? I want to play Ursula. And then they wouldn't respond. So she just posted a video where she painted herself up like Ursula and sang 10 seconds of it and nailed it. And she was like, no one's reached out to me. And then they just announced, you know, like, oh, Melissa McCarthy's in advanced talks.
Right.
Like, I think they already were deep on that road. But
that's too bad because, I mean, that does, I don't know. Look, again, we'll see the movie. And again, I have such hope. No, I have no hope for that movie anyway.
I know.
But just 5 seconds, I just watched the Lizard thing for 5 seconds. I'm like, oh, that's a good vibe. I don't know. That seems cool.
It's just, it feels like Ursula has to be her, like, in order to do it well, if it's not this, you know, Pat Carroll and what she's doing, it has to be its own thing.
It's the one calculation I think they made correctly with the Guy Ritchie Aladdin was just like, Will Smith is the right choice on that level of just like, you got to find someone who has their own thing but has an entirely different thing, because you're never going to have you know, someone try to replicate Robin Williams and have it not be upsetting. And Melissa McCarthy just feels like the wrong thing.
The other thing, I guess like Captain Hook is the first Disney villain who pops. I'm really looking through the history of Disney. Because, like, the early ones, the villains don't matter that much. Yeah, sure, the Wicked Queen and Snow White or whatever. But, like, they, like, so crucial to the Renaissance movies is that you kind of are rooting for the villain, like, every time they're scheming, right? Yeah. Like, Jafar, Scar, like, you know, these are, I mean, even Gaston, like, they're fun. Yeah. They have good songs. They have a lot of humor. And, like, it's not like that's completely unheard of in the old, like, obviously, Maleficent is a very compelling
I was going to say, Hook and Maleficent are the first two who are kind of alluring.
Right. I think the first one who maybe, I mean, the problem, Cruella is so downright villainous, but she's also super compelling.
Yeah.
Right. And super cool. Like, so there's her as well. And that's all post Princess. That's all in the, you know, early 60s. Yeah. But I do think Radigan, who we discussed last week, and Ursula, that's the new model. Like, this is going to be almost a secondary protagonist.
And that thing of like, they got to have a song, they got to be funny and scary.
Yes. And I think Poor Unfortunate Souls is the best villain song. I think I prefer it to Gaston.
So good. No,
Jafar, of course, never. Gaston's great. I mean, it's not like I don't like.
I have antlers and all of my decorating is.
I mean, Jafar doesn't get a song.
It's just like so incredible.
But it's some good shit. Yeah,
very good shit.
So yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's like we've kind of like we've been tackling this from a bunch of different angles.
The things we haven't talked about are Under the Sea and Kiss the Girl for sure.
Yeah.
But apart from that, right? Like, are there other?
Right. Well, they're in the ocean. That came up, I think.
They are under the sea.
They're under the
sea.
Dusty.
They're not above the sea.
Yeah.
Dusty.
Yeah. That number is Dusty. That number is just so fucking wild. Like you really, but also the lyrics.
The lyrics are so great.
The lyrics are so insane. And also just the visual, what they're doing with all the fish and, you know.
The rapid cutting, like, which is sort of weird for Disney, where it like speeds up as it goes along.
And you have this semi-Busby Berkeley energy, which I know they were sort of perfect on, like, with Be Our Guest, but, like, it you know, you have... There's so many different fish. I don't know.
That's what I was going to say. Like, Be Our Guest really kind of heightens this because they have a much bigger budget. There are a lot of technical breakthroughs. You're able to do sort of larger choreography. And this number, they have to sort of establish through a lot of editing because they just don't have the power, the infrastructure, the time, the resources to do like a big group shot of 80 fish all dancing perfectly choreographed with each other. So it's all these weird little vignettes, You know, it's all these weird
Yes.
little like close two shots of a couple of fish, these lyrics that are specifically referencing just the 2 or 3 fish you're seeing on screen at that moment. The rhythm is all established through editing more than dancing. But it's just such a fucking jam. And it's also so wild that it's like, here's like, Howard Ashman's coming and he's like, look, this is the cornerstones of emotional storytelling through song, the I Want song, this and that. And also just a song where a fucking crab tells you how cool shit is under the sea.
What is
He's
your
not
favorite
wrong.
lyric? What is your favorite lyric in Under the Sea? Because mine is, nobody beat us, fry us, and eat us in fricassee.
In fricassee.
That's my
right,
favorite
which
lyric.
is very funny.
I'm pulling it up right here so I don't get the words wrong. David, what's your favorite?
I mean, there's so many good options, such as the trout rocking out. Like I like when he starts going, like the Ray he can play the lings on the strings. Like when he starts going through different fish species, the chub play, the tub, all that. The fluke is the Duke of Soul. But I don't think there's anything better than Hot Crustacean Band. Like I don't think it can be underrated that Ashman was like, that's gonna be a button. Like I'm gonna Hot Crustacean Band is gonna work in a song for 5-year-olds. Like and they'll sing that.
The one that made me giggle out loud is even the sturgeon and the ray, they get the urge and start to play. I think so much of it is the animation performance there, because you see the 2 fish kind of looking at each other all ornery.
They're
and then they break down. They're like, come on, what if we just jammed right now?
Yeah, we in luck here, down in the muck here.
Not to keep referencing Bob, but he kept last night. He was like, "Can you credit Sebastian for the ska revival?" Thanks to
there's an argument,
which is a good point.
Real Big Fish might line up like age-wise with this movie.
Real Big Fish, real small crab. Sebastian's my favorite character in this movie. I find his design so incredible, especially because
his little feet.
What? But even just his face, it's just like the proportions. He's like all brow, everything about him. But my single favorite moment in the entire movie is that like moment he has to himself where he's like, I'm wasting the best years of my life. Like I should be writing symphonies. Like this whole idea, it adds so much weird emotional weight to Under the Sea, this song that otherwise feels a little frivolous, because it's like this guy is stuck in this fucking shitty administrative job, like looking after his boss's daughter. He wants to be fucking orchestrating a Hot Crustacean Band.
This is the whole thing. His role, it makes no sense that this guy, initially he's the scold who tells Ariel to stop worrying about the human world. Then he's the fun band leader who's like, life's great under the sea. And you're like, this guy's right. Life is great under the sea. And then later he's like, dude, I get it. You just got to make out. Like, and then he's like raising his eyebrows and singing a song about kissing. And you're like, yeah, I get this energy from Sebastian. It makes sense. It follows. Like he works it on. And then he has a whole sequence escaping the Le Poisson guy. And as Esther pointed out to me, essentially murders him. And you're into that too.
Sebastian ends the movie with murder. I mean, like, or at least maiming. He
injures him.
The Le Poisson. He all of his teeth fall out, and then Sebastian just like hops off the boat and is like, "Fuck you, I'm out."
But like I had teachers in high school who were like, like pulled me aside after class, and they were like, "Dude, look, between you and I think you're funny, but come on, man, I can't support this shit." Like, first of all, you don't do any homework, and second of all, we're in a class. Like, objectively, I think you're funny, but enough of this, And I feel like Sebastian's that kind of thing where he's just like, look, it's my job, okay? I cannot co-sign this. And eventually he just gets broken down.
Right. I like that. I mean, as we know, she gives up her voice. She's got to kiss him. These are the rules. They got to kiss within 3 days. You'd think she could just fucking kiss him, but I guess do they have to like
it has
jointly
to be true
kiss?
Love. It has to be true love.
But I do love that. Right then, in the third act, there's literally a scene where Sebastian's like, "Did they make out yet?" like they're all just talking about it.
Yeah,
and it's not happening. So he's like, "Guess I better like put on the best fuck performance of my life. You have a Kiss symphony.
But that's what I'm
right?
saying. There's like this stealth
great.
Sebastian narrative where like
There is.
she helps him realize that like I can't be wasting any more of my best years like stuck in this fucking perfunctory gig.
Because it's like you're saying, like, right, there's that cool moment before Kiss the Girls where he's like, because Scuttle's squawking, because Scuttle's, he's making an effort, and he like dives down and he like breaks a reed to make a conductor stick. Yeah. And then goes back up, and he get the ducks and the turtles. He's right, he's like, all right, come on, let's make an effort here.
But that's what I'm talking about. That fucking that
agree.
one line about the symphonies makes the world of difference because suddenly you're just like, this isn't just writing. Sebastian's songs are good because he's in a musical. It's like, no, Sebastian's thing is this is his life. This is his passion.
And you know what about Kiss the Girls? And Kiss the Girls, Jesus, that's the Morgan Freeman movie. Kiss the Girl. He's like percussion, strings, right? He's like introing everything, right? And then he goes, woods, and he's not talking to anyone, and he's talking about himself, and he's got this face where he looks so serious, and you're like, he's fine, like he's connected with what you're talking about again. His passion is back. The spark is awoken.
Right. This movie could be called How Sebastian Got His Groove Back.
It should be. And I am glad that you said it.
I wish he was in more movies. Like I watched Con Air today as well, and I'm like, why did Dave Chappelle stop being in movies? Why didn't Sebastian play Tom Hanks' best friend in some movie?
Oh God. And as Kiss the Girl, like this is a sexy movie, not in a gross way. Well, probably for some. I mean, Ben was just browsing DeviantArt, but like, the reprise-ive part of Your World where she, sings the final line and the wave crashes behind her and it's this like orgasmic thing. Like the movie is, it's like playing with passion. In ways that Disney movies are, Disney movies are usually very chaste.
Also, I straight up just shed a single tear on that moment. I feel like
that moment is so good.
It's hitting real hard in lockdown. The whole Ariel, like I want to be out there. I want to be living.
Get the fuck out of here.
I'm Ariel. Big mood. I feel you.
I love a reprise so much. Like I love the sort of swelling, and this one is just the best. I mean, I also love the Beauty and the Beast reprise of Belle, but like this one's the best. Like I don't know when, I don't know how, but I know something's starting right now. Ugh.
That's what I should have done for the opening. I should have done that one rather than the passage I did.
I don't know when, I don't know how, but I know
Moana
is starting right now.
I'd still do Pod of their cast. I just think that's the better intro. Moana does that really well too. The way they build, right. Because like you burn the big emotional song early on, and you're like, that's it, and it's like, no, hold on, they'll bring it back.
Absolutely. So
it is just kind of wild that then the remaining 40 minutes of this movie are Ariel's a mute, and it's a lot of shit with Sebastian trying not to get eaten and the dog and like
trying to get him to kiss. Sebastian's either trying to get him to kiss or not get eaten. Ursula is causing trouble as a human. There's a whole sequence at dinner where Ariel combs her hair with a fork and blows smoke into Lord Stuffington's face.
They do this sort of perfunctory, like, she's Spunky Girl when he takes her on the tour of the town, and she, like, dives under the carriage, and she takes control, and they jump over the big thing, and
Right. Yes, right.
She's got spunk. So he's, like, it sort of makes up for him being, like, attracted to a mute girl.
That's the stuff that's very Splash adjacent, where I don't understand why they wouldn't want to replicate a movie that was very successful for them, but I also realized they were trying to make Splash 2, which I guess ultimately went straight to TV. But I think Splash is so much the literal fish out of water comedy that that's the stuff for me. None of it's bad, but it's a little less exciting. All the sort of like Ariel doesn't understand how to be a human shit.
Now, when things don't work out, when the sun sets before they make out, and then there's this great scene where, Right, where Triton, seriously, where Triton is like, come on, enough of this. And she uses the contract as a shield, which I always think is really cool, where she's like, this is literally unbreakable.
Mm-hmm.
And Triton gives it up and she becomes the queen. And she's big.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, Esther.
Yeah.
Oh, we haven't talked about her souls yet. I like her souls.
Oh, her little
are such
souls.
an interesting design.
Mm.
And the fact that she just like keeps these like sort of like plant humans with big eyes, and they're sort of
they're like
they're
little
scraggly
beardy shrimp.
drawn, like
Yeah.
it's really it's they're weird as hell, and I really love them.
But is she scary when she's big?
Yeah.
When I was a kid,
Yeah.
very scared of this.
Yeah.
Very
Still
scary.
scary, right?
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
still Ben's got it as his background right now. It's just genuinely scary. I mean, that's another.
And she's like, her voice is crazy,
Yeah.
right? She's like, you fools! Like she's suddenly like really feeling herself.
yeah,
She sort of reminds me of like the Beetlejuice big thing, where it's like the the crown
Yes.
thing.
yeah,
Mhm.
yes. When Beetlejuice does the carnival
Beetlejuice
barker
gets
like
big.
rise. Yeah.
I mean, it's basically she goes Super Saiyan. Like that's what happens.
She goes Super Saiyan, right?
Sure.
And this is the thing. Often in these Disney movies, there's really kind of a last act with the villain. It's 2 minutes. She gets the Triton. She's
Yeah.
like, rule number 1, I'm 500 feet tall. Rule number 2, all you motherfuckers are gonna die. And so they just kill her with the boat like right away. Like it's really quick.
It's one of those things that I think sometimes, like, I see the broken after effects of like certain shitty screenwriting books where people think like, oh, you need to hit all these story beats, and every one of these story beats needs to be of equal screen
Right, you
time.
need to give him time, right? Yeah.
Right, and it's like you can hit the thing. Like Luke Skywalker's refusal of the call is 90 seconds, you know?
Right.
Like Ariel going, or Ursula going Super Saiyan is 2 minutes. Like you should
2
hit
minutes.
these beats, but it doesn't have to be a whole fucking to-do.
And it shouldn't be. It's like, yeah, we all agree. Ursula being this big and making this much trouble, not a good long-term strategy. We don't want this.
Yeah.
Let's ram a boat into her. I mean, like, right? There's just nothing more to be said.
Yeah.
And I do also like that she is motivated to go insane because Flotsam and Jetsam die.
Right.
And she says, my poopies or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's her exact line. I think she says
Yeah.
my poopies or whatever. I love the Triton moment when Sebastian goes back to her, and I forget, I'm gonna fucking misquote it, but where he
When
says,
he does kind
like,
of a Simon Cowell thing.
yeah, I guess the bad news is how much I'm gonna miss her or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's a sweet moment. It's also so weird that it's Kenneth Mars,
It
who's
is
like
weird that
a
it's Kenneth
fucking Mel
Mars.
Brooks company player and is such a goofball.
Absolutely. It's super weird.
Huh.
He's also Professor Screw Eyes, and we're back at Dinosaur Stories.
Right,
so-
right. But
Take that to the bank.
Kenneth Mars is Franz Liebkin and the producers, and he's the guy with
Right.
the arm in Young Frankenstein.
I never realized that. Wow.
Yeah. It's a very odd casting.
He's also, if you remember in Malcolm in the Middle, where there was the German guy who owned the Dude Ranch, that's him.
right.
That was like one of those weird subplots of Malcolm in the Middle. Anyway, he's good though. And like you see, it's weird. Again, the movie's moving so fast at this point. We got like 4 minutes to go. And
Yeah.
but it all, I guess it's just all in the characters and how they're animated. Like Ariel's reaction to that feels very genuine, right? Like it's all nice.
Yeah. It's just I don't know. The movie gets in and it gets out, and it gets its business done, and it fucking rips.
Can't argue.
Yeah.
Oh boy. It's good shit.
Yeah, and it just it becomes the first Disney movie to get an Academy Award nomination of any stripe since Bed
Is that
Knobs and
true?
Broomsticks.
Oh, okay.
That's
right. Yeah,
crazy.
right.
No,
yes.
not ever, but in decades.
But in decades.
Decades.
Right. The brand was so dead.
yeah,
And it wins 2 Oscars for score and for Under the Sea. And Kiss the Girl is also nominated. Weirdly, Part of Your World is not.
yeah.
And now I even want to. It's not like there were other good songs nominated.
I think it was just that. I I mean, sometimes the rules would change as to how many songs a certain movie could have, and it would go up or down in any given year.
Because like Lion King was nominated for at least 3 songs,
yeah,
right?
and Dreamgirls got 3, but I feel like they're constantly fucking with those rules every other year. I also think Under the Sea just
None of these other songs I could sing
None of them exist.
yeah. But Under the
Sea. No, I mean Under the Sea is a banger. To be clear.
I was gonna say it's also
rules.
just the earworm thing. I think that's the big thing. If you're a parent who took your kid to see this and you're voting on the Oscars like a couple months later, you're just like, I have not gotten that song out of my head.
The only thing is, it's a good win. It's just that after that, they always give it to the ballad. Beauty and the Beast, Whole New World, Can You Feel the Love Tonight are the winner. And it's like
it's
none
odd
of those,
that
I think, are the best
the fun song
right.
one. Yeah. But this is the only Oscar he was alive for, right? The other...
I believe that's
died,
right? Right? He didn't...
Because he died before Beauty and the Beast came out.
It's wild.
My fun personal story is my parents actually went to the Golden Globes that year because my dad directed many episodes of a television show called Empty Nest, which was a Golden Girls spinoff. And Richard
also
Mulligan,
a TV show called The In-Laws. Dennis Farina. Go on.
Yeah.
Yes.
And they ran into Howard there, but also I was there because I was in utero. So I went to the Golden
Hey, we stand.
He is. I mean, I highly recommend the Howard documentary on Disney Plus for people who haven't seen it. It's really good context,
really
especially for these 2 episodes, this and Aladdin that we're doing. But it is one of those artistic losses that is pretty difficult to even calculate. When you think about like this is his first thing that really permeates the pop culture at large, and then he's dead. Within like 3 years.
Within 2 years. Yeah. I mean, like he told Menken that he had AIDS the night they won the Oscar for this movie. And 2 years later.
Right.
A year later he was dead.
It's just kind of impossible to even imagine what he would have done
there
with
would have
another
been 10 Disney movies.
Yes.
Right. Exactly.
Right. It's so wild. And I do feel like I don't know. I mean, we talked about the AIDS crisis when we did the Philadelphian episode, but it's like it was such a uniquely tragic thing in terms of how many artistic voices we lost because of the specific, obviously the communities that were affected most severely by the AIDS crisis. In a way where, like, I don't know if there's been the tragedy of that scale in COVID times, If there's, like, clear,
right. It's hard to reckon with, right?
Yeah. I don't know. It's just, certainly watching the Ashman documentary however many months ago when it launched, I couldn't stop thinking of weird cultural parallels. I think there's a thing with this movie in terms of its box office performance that it happens a couple times in this era of Disney, where they have like 2 movies and one of them they think is the big deal and one of them they're just like, oh, who knows? And the who knows movie always.
Right. So Oliver and Company was the big movie.
Right. They were like, we're making a younger, more modern, it's pop driven, it's all this shit. And then Little Mermaid became the big thing. It was, I know the big thought was, would this be the first animated movie to make $100 million? And it came close, and then that threshold is finally crossed by Beauty and the Beast. And Aladdin becomes the first to make $200 million. But this did 85 first run?
It did. Correct. It did $85 million domestic. And I guess its final worldwide total, probably including everything, is like 230 or something.
Yeah, right. Before it comes out on video and whatever. And I was saying right before we recorded, they put this out on video within 6 months of it coming out in theaters, which was seen as radical, was treated like it was the HBO Max move. But the other 2 examples of the thing I was talking about, Treasure Planet and Lilo and Stitch was that same deal. And Pocahontas and Lion King.
Right, that's the one I always think of. Right, they were like Lion King. Boy,
who knows? Yeah,
Pocahontas obviously will kill for us, but that's the thing. They're thinking 2 movies
Yeah.
back. You know, that's what
Right.
it always is. You know, and it makes sense, obviously. The movie opened number 3 on November 17th, 1989, because it opened only on 1,000 screens. Because Disney,
Yeah.
especially back then, loved to do a rollout.
Mhm.
So it's not number 3. It's not number 1 at the box office, Griffin. Number 1 at the box office is opening huge. I gotta say, $16 million in 1989 is a solid opening for a movie that is universally thought of as a stinker.
Interesting.
Was a sort of a big passion project for a giant movie star that I guess did not bomb financially, but was a Razzie winner. You know what I mean?
Is it an Eddie Murphy movie?
It is.
It's not Harlem Nights, is it?
It is Harlem Nights.
Yeah, see, I argued about this with you recently because I feel like Harlem Nights
Right.
came up in some other episode. Harlem Nights
It did,
was
Back to
a
the Future
hit.
part. It was a
Right.
hit, right? Back to the Future Part 2 is a couple weeks later. Is a week later.
That's the thing. Like Harlem Nights did not ignite the world, but it was a hit.
Made money.
Yeah.
Right. But people were just like, no, Eddie, you've
Yeah.
gone too far, Eddie. You can't direct. You can't make dramas, Eddie. Like, what
Yeah.
are you doing? Right. Like, it was like this just classic. The star is overcooked. I don't know.
89 is also like the first modern box office year where you have
Right. With
like
big opening
Last
weekends and
Crusade,
stuff like
Batman, Ghostbusters
Yeah.
2. Yeah.
that. Back to the Future 2. of
Back to the
course.
Future 2. Yeah.
And Little Mermaid. So a lot of these are in the Back to the Future game. So number 2, Griffin, high concept comedy, director we will cover one day. Star comeback.
It's a star comeback. Oh God, you devil.
It's not Oh God, You Devil.
Star comeback. 1989. I might make that my new go-to bad answer.
It's a good one versus
Bad
like
guess.
Casper, A Spirited Beginning.
Yeah, no, I think that one's all played out. So I'm gonna say my next guess is Casper: A Spirited Beginning.
We could do the Oh God franchise if you want.
Yeah, let's do that.
Patreon one day.
Yeah, I want to no longer have a stable income. Let's do the Oh God franchise. I want to absolutely look a
I
gift
will
horse
say-
in the mouth. Can we do all 3 Oh God movies?
We haven't recorded them yet, but the announcement of Croc Dundee went over okay.
Yeah. People are less flummoxed than I thought they would be. But I'm also just like, it's 3. I don't know. What do we? Come on, give us the mulligan.
Come on.
Okay.
What do we got here?
So it's a director we'll probably cover one day. Is the director primarily a comedy director?
Yes,
And it's a big star comeback.
it is. Although he's not like on the poster because it's a high concept comedy.
So the concept is the real star. Oh, of course. It's Look Who's Talking.
Look who's talking.
Yeah.
Look who's talking.
It
Who's talking, Griffin?
the baby is talking.
You ever think
baby
about
is
how
so good.
solid of a premise that is for a movie?
I think about it all the
pretty-
time. I think
It's
about
pretty good.
Ben, I think about it so often. She's talked about it too, that she just like had a huge hit and then a big flop, and then Hollywood wasn't hiring her anymore, and she was like, I need a premise that's such a slam dunk that no one won't greenlight it. That like
Amy Heckerling, to be clear.
Yeah. Heckerling was just like, I dare you to not make this movie with this premise.
Yeah, I mean, you can't not. And there's
No.
all this stuff about story and what's his name? I don't know. The guy who, like
Robert McKee.
is all about. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
That guy. But then it's like, what if you could understand what Baby said?
You're
And they
saying
sound like
throw the books
adults.
Yeah.
Abandon the formula. Movies should just be about shit like what if a baby talked?
It is weird. Like, what was the thing I was looking at? I forget why I went down this rabbit hole, but in terms of like the line that is so thin between like the biggest comedies of the 70s, 80s, and 90s and movies that destroyed people's careers, right? Where you're just like, any which way but loose, like, that's such a flip of a coin that audiences like that, but then like Stop or My Mom Will Shoot is just like ruinous to Stallone.
Okay. Number 4.
Okay.
At the box office.
Okay.
Is a comedy drama, big hit, enduring classic, I would say, sort of the prototypical chick flick but I mean that in a good way, obviously.
Got it. It's Oh God, You Devil. No, it's either Steel Magnolias or Fried Green Tomatoes.
It's Steel Magnolias.
Okay.
Fried Green Tomatoes is sort of a 90s.
Yeah,
Coming back to the WPA Theater.
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
Steel Magnolias originated at the WPA Theater with Margot Martindale.
So Did your mom discover Ellen Green?
I guess. I mean, she gave her the role.
Yeah, that rules.
But I don't know the
Little
story
shop.
about like how Ellen came to them.
Sure.
I do know I have a like I can tell you something about the casting process that I don't think my mom would live on the record by after this.
Okay, cool.
Oh, okay, sure. Right. Number 5 at the box office before we go off mic is an animated film. Another film we'll probably cover one day.
So it's a Bluth?
Director. It's a Bluth.
I'm trying to think because they were always the Bluths and the Disneys were always paired in this era.
They're always matched against each other. I would say this movie is a flop. It's sort of his first big flop. It's a movie that truly kind of just unsettled me as a kid, and I didn't like it at all. And I would love to rewatch it.
Is it Rats of Nim?
No, Secret of NIMH fucking rules. That's his first movie. This is his fourth movie.
I get his timeline fucked up. Okay, and it's not American Tail.
No, that's his second movie. It goes Secret of NIMH, American Tail, Land Before Time.
Right, it's not Land Before Time.
Hit, and then this.
It's not Thumbelina, is it?
No, that's later.
Right, and it's not Rockadoodle.
This is sort of the turning point. No, that's next.
This movie is fucked up.
It's not Troll in Central Park is later. What is this?
Now you're just naming all
I know.
his movies.
I'm
This is
trying
kind
to
of
process
incredible.
elimination. That's
right.
It's obviously it's not Titan AE. It's not Anastasia.
No,
right. Okay.
Right.
What's the
So
one
it's
I'm
the other
not
one.
fucking
Got all of
thinking
them,
of?
but like this one.
It's famous. I feel like you're gonna really feel like an idiot. This is this is a pretty famous one.
Is it All Dogs Go to Heaven?
That's right.
Yeah. A really upsetting film.
Yeah.
Wait, there was just a clue.
Crazy.
There was
and
just
that's
a
the thing.
clue.
Oh, that's the thing is with Little Mermaid, people are like Disney's over. Bluth beat him.
Yeah,
You know, like 'cause
yes.
he's had these 3 hits.
Yeah.
And so they're like, yeah, fuck Disney. They can't get out of this tailspin. It's all Bluth, baby. And then Disney's like, we're going to do a beautiful musical about a fairy tale.
Yeah.
And Bluth's like, yeah, what if I do a movie about how dogs die?
Right. It's like about like a fucking like scummy like pussy hound dog.
Right.
Yeah, All Dogs Go to Heaven is fucking bizarre. That's an example of a movie where I went like, how dare they with the title?
Right, exactly. I was almost like, can we turn this off? Like,
Yes.
I can't handle this.
Absolutely not.
Which all the more reason to cover Bluth, because
Right.
that's the whole thing with Bluth, where you're like, as a kid, you're like, I love 90% of this, 10% of this, I kind of wish you could erase it from my memory.
Right.
Like, I'm too freaked out.
And it's the fucking Burt Reynolds crew. It's Reynolds, DeLuise, Lonnie Anderson, Charles Nelson Riley.
Yeah, and DeLuise absolutely crushes it, I will say.
Yeah.
He just completely annihilates.
But then the sequel is Charlie Sheen and DeLuise. Reynolds doesn't come back, but DeLuise
Right.
does.
I believe I have seen All Dogs Go to Heaven too, yes.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, I mean, and also we have to mention that the villain in All Dogs Go to Heaven is a pit bull named Carface.
Wow, I blocked that out of my memory.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Some other movies. There's a movie called Dad.
Oh,
Don't know this movie.
Yeah, that's the Jack Lemmon,
Oh,
Ted
that's right,
Danson,
and-
Ethan Hawke movie.
Hawk, right?
Yeah.
Baby Hawk.
And Lemon's
Uh,
got like really good old age makeup in it.
Right. And then you've got Prancer in
Oh,
that
sure.
sort of slightly cheapo fantasy movie boom of the 80s.
Is Dad David Gary Goldberg? Is it like it's like the one movie of someone who didn't
find
really
out.
make movies?
It is a
Yes,
Gary David
yes.
Goldberg. Yes, the
Yes.
of course creator of Family Ties and
Yeah.
Spin City. That's funny. Yeah. Anyway, right. Yeah. That's and The Bear is in the top 10 crimes and misdemeanors, and a movie called Staying Together with Sean Astin and Melinda Dillon and Stockard Channing. It kind of looks like a Stand By Me kind of thing.
If you say so.
Okay. Well, we're done.
we're done. Little Mermaid, a film that works.
It sure does. Life Under
a
the
great
Sea. It's
movie.
better than anything they got up there.
Yeah. Esther, do you have any final thoughts?
No, it's just like this movie is so important to me, and it remains important to me. Oh, and I have to acknowledge that Griffin's background this whole time has been the poster from the Little Mermaid Live, which aired on ABC.
Shaggy.
And featured John Stamos doing the most unhinged Le Poisson. I watched this live. John Stamos was out of control, and Shaggy was off key the whole time as Sebastian.
It's true.
It was wild.
But the casting's pretty good. Like, I mean, Latifah as Ursula is better.
Yeah,
and
that's good.
Crivello as Ariel, I like a lot.
Yes, but
Yeah.
fucking Stamos as the chef makes Rene Auberjonois look like fucking Rene Falconetti from The Passion of Joan of Arc, where you're like, this is like a subtle and moving work. Stamos is off the chain in that thing.
David, the what you just said is so funny, I can't even process it. I'm not even laughing. I'm just like, I feel like my head is spinning around. The fact that you landed that you went from Renee to Renee.
Thank you.
Oh my God. The episode's over. Esther, thank you so
episode's
much
over.
for being on the show.
Thank you
Everyone
for having me.
should buy your book, A Field Guide to Internet Boyfriends.
Thank you.
I'm very happy that Kristen Stewart was included. I think that's the kind of outside the box thinking we need these days. I
The only
think
way to put America back on track.
she's not considered within the internet boyfriend pantheon, but she absolutely belongs to be there. It's the exact same sort of parasocial relationship we have with her. And you're the best in the biz, and I'm glad we finally let you talk about a movie that doesn't make you angry.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hey. And thank you all for listening. Please remember to rate, review, and subscribe. Thanks to Joe Bone and Pat Rounds for our artwork. Music for this show by The Great American Novel. Go to blankies.reddit.com for some real nerdy shit. And to our Shopify page, where you can buy merch, Comedy Point coins, restock. Hopefully they haven't sold out yet. And if they have sold out again, then we certainly will be ordering more. But you can get the Tuck in the Walk 2020 shirt there. Tune in next week for Aladdin, another movie that was successful.
A hit.
Has had some degree of cultural staying power.
Right.
Unlike the Crocodile Dundee movies, which you can currently hear us talk about on Patreon.
That's right.
And as always, I don't understand why King Triton's nipples remind David of fathers.
Big nips, big dad.